Wildlife is an energy. It's drawn to some people and it's not drawn to some.
Absolutely. I'm a magnet for animals. If I go out, I find animals. I'll just flip over a log and there's a snake. A gharial presenting itself to me in the wild. Something in the universe, it's now presented itself to me and I get to have that experience.
My name is Forrest Galante. I am a fanatical wildlife enthusiast, biologist, conservationist, just inspiring as many people as possible to fall in love with nature.
What's been the scariest vibe you've encountered in the wild?
There have been a few times where my heart has just sank. For instance, when I was working in Mozambique, we were tracking these big conflict elephants through pretty thick bush. I heard this elephant trumpet. It was loud, like I could feel it move through my body. And I was like, oh boy.
Do you think that there's a chance that the dinosaurs survived the asteroid impact as well?
Yeah, I mean, chickens are the closest living relative of a T-Rex.
Would you want to see dinosaurs back in this world?
Selfishly, 100%. It would be amazing to go to a real-life Jurassic Park. Is it a good thing to do for wildlife or conservation? Absolutely not.
Why?
I mean, it would probably collapse itself. We should not be bringing dinosaurs back.
How's Papua New Guinea as a land?
It's unbelievably tribal. The people are very violent.
Violent towards each other, but also towards like foreigners?
I felt in jeopardy when that was, man, everything went dark.
What is an environment that you were just dying to get out of?
I don't like cold. When I'm in the Arctic, I'm ready to get out of it.
And then a polar bear starts hunting you.
Exactly, yeah.
What is their vibe in person?
Very chill until you piss him off. Then there's nothing you can do because he's this huge guy and he's gonna kick your butt.
Has that happened?
My family's 6th generation Zimbabwean African. In the early 2000s, there were real hard, difficult things that we went through. And I remember being 12 years old and losing everything overnight. My dog, my family, my friends disappearing, running away from the country, guns in our faces. But I wouldn't trade it for a single thing because it has made me what I think is very strong today. And I think a lot of that is because I went through what I went through as a kid.
Few episodes that I'm this proud to bring to Indian audiences. I've looked up to Forrest Galante for years because he's one of the very, very, very few human beings who's responsible for spreading wildlife education all over the world. Whether you're someone who likes wildlife, adventure, or just a great conversation, I promise you, this is one of those TRS episodes that's going to stay in your heart for a very long time. So sit back, relax, and learn from one of the most journeyed human beings. He's been to every kind of geography, every corner of the earth in search for rare animals. One of the best storytellers because he's one of the greatest journeymen of our generation. Now, if you're someone building your own journey, whether that's in business, content, or conservation, you know that creativity is only half the game. The other half is smooth operations, CRM, invoicing, project management, dashboards, everything that keeps your vision alive behind the scenes. That's where Odoo steps in. This very iconic episode is brought to you by the very iconic Odoo. It's an all-in-one business management platform that brings everything together. Website, HR, invoicing, accounting, CRM, sales, pipeline, inventory. So you don't have to juggle between 10 different apps. The CRM gives a clear Kanban view of your sales pipeline, tracks every deal and conversation, and provides real-time insights so you always know where your business stands. The best part is that your first app is free for life with unlimited hosting and support. For me, Odoo means less back-end chaos at Beer Biceps and more time to create episodes just like this. For you, it's the toolkit to scale smarter in 2025 and 2026. Big thanks to Odoo for powering this particular episode. But for now, let's deep dive into this very special conversation with a guest that you will never forget. It's Forrest Galante on TRS. Very, very excited to bring you this episode. Are you doctor?
No. That'd be
Mister.
cool though, huh?
Mister.
Yeah. Just we're friends. Don't call me Mister. That's weird. Just say my friend Forrest. I'm not gonna call you Mr. Ranveer.
You record ho raha hai? Record ho raha hai? Oh, we started.
Okay, my bad.
I was just doing it for the effect of calling you Mr. Galante.
Oh, there you go. You can do that. That sounds pretty good.
Dude, you have one of the most interesting lives that I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with. And I genuinely believe that I've interacted with your entire life.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. Because I've had some fantastic conversations with you.
Yeah, a lot. Long phone calls, everything. Yeah.
I said this in the Vantara video as well.
Yeah.
That it's genuinely a privilege for me to share the same room as you. Because, like, very few human beings have contributed to Mother Nature in the way you have.
Oh, well, thank you, man. It's an honor to be here. I love chatting with you. I remember when I was driving down Highway 1 in California and you called me one day. 'Cause I don't know if you remember this. This was like 4 months ago. And I was like, Ranveer's calling me. I was like, hey, buddy. And you're like, hey, just want to let you know I was thinking about you. I was like, okay, what's up? You're like, nothing. Just want to let you know I was thinking about you. I was like, that's awesome, man. I thought that was so cool.
I'm glad. Like, you're one of those people where if someone gets in a deep conversation with you, you create an imprint on their head. But dude, the kind of experiences you've had in your life, it just stays with people. Yeah. And it's actually inspired me to go out and collect more crazy experiences.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's amazing. And I'm glad you're doing it. That's super cool.
For people who are encountering Forrest Galante for the first time, I'm going to pass the ball to you and allow yourself to introduce yourself briefly to them.
Sure. Okay, with pleasure. My name is Forrest Galante. I am a fanatical wildlife enthusiast, biologist, conservationist, someone who has dedicated his whole life to wildlife, but in doing so, going on adventures to some of the most remote corners of the planet, working to save species from extinction, working to promote any wildlife and conservation message. And I've done that on television shows, on YouTube channels, all kinds of things, but with the goal of just inspiring as many people as possible to fall in love with nature.
Yeah, I just asked Forrest where he's gone within India, and you named some pretty remote places.
Yeah.
That was not expected. You want to go over that list again a little?
Yeah, sure. I went to the right on the India-Nepal border to look for red pandas to a place called Habre's Nest, a little tiny like remote lodge. It was beautiful. Loved trekking there. And to the Chambal River. I've seen dolphins and looked for gharial. Down south, Kabini, to Corbett National Park. Where else did I'm blanking on? Oh, been to Assam, to the tea estates in Assam, and seen some of that, looking for pit vipers, and yeah, everywhere I could. I was only here for a month, and I traveled to as many of the wildlife hotspots as I could.
You know, Chambal is a place I have not visited yet.
Really?
Yeah, and one of the reasons I want to visit Chambal is because it used to also be the home to something called dakus. Dakus are... Do you know what dacoit means?
I don't know.
Like, you know, in the Wild West of America, you had like people who were wanted.
Yeah, sure.
Somewhat like the equivalent of that, like the Indian version of the Wild West.
So it was the kind of the middle of nowhere that the outlaws would go.
Outlaws.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And that's what pulls me to Chambal. But you went there to search for gharials.
That's right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Saw gharials, saw big Indian soft-shell turtles, just all the wildlife on the river there.
What stands out about this land and its wildlife to you? Because you've seen places from all over the globe.
India has such an unbelievable diversity. You know, it's the only place in the world that has bears, lions, and tigers. You know what I mean? It's got everything. And it's so interesting because it's a very populated country. There's tons of people here. And yet there are these unbelievably dense and remote jungles. And as a kid, I'd read Rudyard Kipling, The Jungle Book, and you'd read about the jungle so thick that you can't see into it. And I grew up in Africa. We don't have, where I live, Southern Africa, we don't have deep jungle. We have savannas and grasslands and bush. And then to come here and go down south into the jungle, and you're driving in your vehicle. I snuck out and walked, but don't tell anybody. You're walking in some of the parts of the jungle, and you can't even see 20 feet. And to think like, man, there could be a tiger right there, right in that thick jungle. It's an amazing, beautiful country. It's a crazy feeling to see that dense Indian jungle.
Yeah, different from jungles that you've seen in the rest of the world? Or
Very
is it,
much so. Yeah.
like, how would it be different from the Amazon rainforest?
The Amazon's big. When you look at the Amazon, it's tall and the undergrowth is limited because the canopy is so high and it lets so little light in that the undergrowth along the Amazon floor is very sparse and you can walk freely along the floor of the Amazon. The Indian jungle is very hard to maneuver through. It's got all these vines and bushes and it's like, to me, it's the iconic dense jungle. And of course, you know, the people and the climate and everything else, the sounds, the smells, everything are different. But I think India has this like deep, dark jungle that's unparalleled.
Yeah, we've had a lot of soldiers on the show. And every time I've asked any of the soldiers about the most difficult terrain they faced in India, they don't say the mountains or the desert. They say, they name this particular part of India called Nagaland.
Yeah.
Which is like further east from where Assam is.
Okay.
It's basically really, really dense forest.
Yeah.
And you can't get through that
Right.
jungle without being really good at it.
Here's something interesting.
Yeah.
They say human beings are designed to walk through every habitat in the world except for mangroves. In mangroves, we're not designed for it. You know, it's up and down and over the mangrove roots and you sink in the mud. But I don't believe that. I think there are two habitats that we're not designed for. One is that mangrove ecosystem. The other is the Indian dense jungle. And I've never seen anything like it anywhere else.
Really?
That's why the soldiers say that's the hardest. Because, and you kind of think about it, it's true. Like think about Amazonian tribes or Papuan tribes. There's 800 languages spoken in Papua New Guinea. That whole country is jungle. People can move freely through that jungle quite well. But here, the jungle is so dense, even your best soldiers say it's one of the hardest terrains to move through.
How's Papua New Guinea as a land? It's a land that calls out a lot to me.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. It's unbelievably tribal. It's dense in a different way, but dense. When I've flown across the country a few times from, you know, Port Moresby out to the coast and stuff, and you'll be in a small plane and fly for 4 hours and not see one hut, one smoke, one building, nothing. And you're just cruising over mountains and jungle and waterfall. And then you land in this little village of, you know, 200, 400 people, whatever. And it's, to me, and some people may combat this, but I found it very violent. Like the people are very violent. Their way of life is very violent. Like I said, 800 languages. 800 languages because the tribes are so insular. They don't want to communicate with each other. And so when you get a city like Port Moresby, which is a westernized city, and you bring 800 cultures into one place, it's this melting pot of cultures. And of course, you know, everybody says this is dangerous, that's dangerous. But if I hate you and you hate me traditionally, tribally, and then you see him walking down the street when you're drunk or chewing betel nut or something, it's like, let's get him. You know, it's such an interesting place. But it also has some of the most endemic and fascinating wildlife of anywhere on the planet.
I gotta go down the people tangent first.
Sure, you love people. I'll talk about it all day.
Violent towards each other, I assume? Or it's also towards like foreigners?
I mean, I never felt in jeopardy ever. I felt even when we came over this waterfall and we found this burial area full of human skulls and there were warriors all around us and stuff, I never really felt in danger. I was nervous because it was a very unusual experience, but I never felt personally in danger. But it seems like the tribal warfare there, you know, modern cities and things, that's gone for the most part globally. But there it's still held on to. So I would say mostly against each other. Really? But that's from an outside perspective. You know, I'm not an expert, but I look at it as a very tribally violent nation in an interesting way.
I think I'd asked you this question the first time I'd met you. But I know you go on these expeditions to find extinct animals, or you're just exploring nature and with like a lot of energy, with your, you know, your soul's exploring.
Yes.
So say on an evening or an afternoon where you find something that you're looking for. It's maybe like this tiger you've heard of, or this particular kind of crocodile. That particular being that you saw out in the forest, do you ever dream of it that night, or do you feel a connection that lasts beyond the encounter?
Absolutely. All the time. And I think the reason for me is because I probably would have been a really good hunter if I like killing things. I don't. But if I did, I probably would have been, because I love the pursuit. And the reward is to find that thing. So if it's that rare crocodile or that rare tiger or whatever it happens to be, what you don't see on TV when I'm making a TV show or a documentary or whatever is the 11 days before you find it that you're looking. And then you have that moment that you find it. And that moment is this crown jewel of rarity, of experience. And that can last a lifetime with you. Because you work so hard to find something that nobody else can find or nobody else has seen in a long time or is just really rare. It doesn't even have to be that special and nobody else has done it. It's just, it doesn't even have to be special at all. Just be something that's special to me. Like seeing a tiger for the first time, which wasn't that hard because I just went on a safari, but it could be something that's common, that's special to me, like a gharial on the Chambal. The first time I saw a gharial, which has been my favorite animal since I was maybe 6 years old, it was very special to me, and that sticks with me. And I dream about that, and I think about that. And I don't just dream about it that night. I might go home tonight and dream about the first time I found an anaconda in the wild, which was probably 12 years ago now. You know, like, it's not all the time, but it happens a lot because there's so much emotion in those moments that it comes back to me.
Have you ever cried in any of those moments?
Yeah, a couple. Yeah, I nearly cried when we found the tortoise, which I mentioned earlier in the Galapagos, which was one of the biggest moments of my life. It's the rarest animal in the world. There's only one of the species, and we found it.
Is it the huge one?
Yeah. The one you see me in all the pictures with.
Right.
Rarest animal in the world, the only one of that species. I nearly cried. I cracked. My voice was cracking and stuff because that was like happy tears. But then I think I mentioned this earlier in our conversation too. When I watched the Grind, which is where they slaughter the pilot whales, I full on cried there. Yeah. And the first time I went to Vantara, when I saw how they had all these rescued elephants that had come from the circus and everything else, and I did a little experiment, if you want to call it. I took their chains that some of them had come from, and I threw them on the ground in front of the elephants, and they picked them up and threw them across the jungle, like angry, like they didn't want to see them. I nearly cried then too. I had like a big lump in my throat that time. And we filmed that. My cameraman, I turned the camera on my cameraman and he was fully crying. And I was like, like trying to swallow the lump in my throat to talk. Yeah.
Tiny story.
Sure.
Back when I started lifting weights for the first time, I got pretty big.
Nice.
I was eating 36 eggs a day. And
oh, wow.
I got really strong and really big.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was dealing with a lot at that point. So I'd walk from my home to my gym, which is about like a 500-meter walk.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd probably carry a lot of anger in my heart in those walks.
Mm-hmm.
And this one time, I saw these teenage boys throwing stones at a dog. And I ran up to them and I scared them through my muscles.
Yeah.
And the dog picked up what I did. And it came up to me and just jumped on me and said, "Thank you."
Mm-hmm.
And I petted it and I just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
That moment taught me something that I learned later on about the spiritual side of animals, which is that when you do help an animal, it leaves you with some kind of a blessing. It blesses you and goes away.
I'm the hugest believer in karma. And I don't know, I think the way Indian culture sees karma is a little bit different to how I understand karma, which to me is just if you do good, you get good, right? If you do good things, you're returned by good things. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I believe, and I hope that's true, that I'm a good person. And that the whole reason that I'm here, as we talked about, is to save animals. And I think that's a good thing to do. And because of that, what I get in return is experiences like what you had with the dog all the time. Not specifically that, but that feeling. An elephant saying thank you to me. A gharial presenting itself to me in the wild. Even though that gharial doesn't even know or care that I'm looking at it, something in the karma universe, it's now presented itself to me and I get to have that experience. And so that's how I believe in karma. And I think that I get that good karma and that good feeling because I put out good feelings for animals.
Wildlife is an energy.
Absolutely.
And it's drawn to some people and it's not drawn to some people.
100%. I'm a magnet for animals and maybe it sounds arrogant, I don't know, but I cannot explain why. I'll never know why. If I go out, I find animals. Part of that is my training, my tracking ability, my senses, everything else. But the other part of it cannot be accredited to anything. It just happens. I'll just flip over a log and there's a snake. Nobody else would have flipped that log. Nobody else would have thought to look. I don't even know why I did it. There's a snake.
Are you able to communicate with them on some degree that you're not able to articulate to human beings?
Yes, but not nearly as well as say, the chimpanzee biologist that studies a troop of chimps all day, every day. They speak that chimpanzee's language, and that chimpanzee understands them because they spend all day, every day looking at that chimpanzee. Do you know what I mean? I'm just making this up. But they speak chimpanzee better than I ever will. I speak all animal language, I guess, but not very well. Do you know what I mean? It's I can understand that animal's upset, that animal's happy, that animal, like, don't go over here because it'll make that thing upset, or it'll smell you and move over here, and don't be loud. And like, I speak a little bit of all animal, but none of them very well because I specialize in so many different species.
Are you more scared of animals or human beings?
Humans, hands down. Humans, hands down.
Yeah.
Animals I can control in the sense of I put myself in the situation. When I snuck out and decided to go walking around Nagarahole in the jungle at night by myself, if I got eaten by a tiger, that's because I was being stupid. People you can't control. Do you know what I mean? I can't control when a group of rebels comes through and says, we don't like that guy, or somebody targets me while I'm driving down the street and says, follow his car. You know, I can't control that, but I can control the situation in which I put myself in with wildlife.
Is there also a way to control wildlife when it's kind of near you?
Not really. It depends. You know, a small snake, sure, you can handle it.
Okay.
An elephant, not really.
What do you do when you are very close to a tiger in the wild?
Well, I've never been in that situation, but I mean, tigers are the apex cat. There's no cat on planet Earth above them. And I think if a tiger wants to eat you, which is rare, it's a very rare scenario, then there's not much you can do about it.
Is there an equivalent animal that you faced in the wild where you've really felt like, okay, this is about it?
There's a handful of animals that you just have no control. A good one's orcas, killer whales. I've been in the water with killer whales 3 or 4 times now. And even with a great white shark or something, it's like if I move my body like this, if I lock eyes, if I have an aggressive body posture, the shark's going to turn away. It doesn't want to risk injury. But an orca, you're just a toy. If they want to play with you, they're going to play with you. If they want to ignore you, they're going to ignore you. Nothing you could do. It doesn't matter if you have a spear gun or a knife or anything. Nothing you could do would give you any safety against an orca because they're so powerful, they're so dominant, they're so big, and they're so smart.
But do you think, my reference point of orcas is obviously Free Willy.
Of course, yeah. And they're cute, and you pet the tongue, and
right?
yeah.
And we've also heard of like orcas killing people in SeaWorld, like sometimes, but I believe that's because of some kind of induced insanity that the orcas go through.
That's right.
I'd love for you to explain it as a conservationist, like what's that insanity that they go through, and then talk about wild orcas and the possible dangers that they could have towards humans.
So I'm going to just reverse it just for context.
Sure.
Because to date, as far as we know, no orca in the wild has ever killed a human being. And they're perfectly capable of it, and they eat seals and sea lions and stingrays and all these things that they eat great white sharks, much bigger than us. So we could be on the menu. But because they're so intelligent, they don't choose to target human beings in the wild. You know, they swim right by people.
Why?
Nobody knows. But my guess, orcas are incredible. They speak their own languages. There's certain groups of orcas that speak their own language. One, like a stingray feeding orca, will only be able to speak the language of another stingray feeding orca. Like, say you only speak Hindi and I only speak English. We're both people, but we don't speak the same language. Same with orcas. There are stingray specialists. There are seal specialists. There are marine mammal specialists. There are salmon specialists. They all speak their own languages. They don't cross-communicate unless they spend enough time together, just like humans, to learn each other's languages. It's fascinating. They've never killed anybody. And I think it's because of that level of intelligence. And not just intelligence like you and I think of it, but emotional intelligence, EQ. However, orcas in captivity, to go back to your first point, they're driven, I don't think they're necessarily induced into insanity, but imagine if you lived in this room your whole life by yourself, and you get fed the same cup of coffee every day and nothing else. You're probably not a very nice person. You're probably a little bit grumpy. You know what I mean? There's a whole world, because most orcas have come from the wild, almost all. There's a whole world out there. You've had your whole life and now you have to live in this room. Same as prison. People get violent in prison. You would probably get violent here. And someday when I decide to bring you your coffee, I say, hey, you look stupid. Your hair looks terrible or something, and you've just had enough. And I think that's what it is. It's just they're in this very uncomfortable situation where they know what the real world is like, but now they're confined into this space, and then they're triggered.
Do you think there's anything like claustrophobia induced insanity when it comes to animals?
I think so. I think humans have it, right?
Like if we're confined to a space, you could go mad.
If you're put in solitary confinement in prison, I don't know about in India, but at least in the US and other countries, one of the worst punishments you can get is solitary confinement, because it messes with you, right? You get put in the box by yourself, nobody to talk to, nothing, no windows. That's what these animals are being put into. And that drives people nuts. I'm sure it drives intelligent animals nuts too. Now, and that's the thing, it doesn't drive a snake nuts.
How come?
Because a snake is hardwired to relax and then attack its prey and relax. That's what snakes do.
This is what the meaning of cold-blooded is?
Cold-blooded means ectothermic, which means it takes its energy from the sun versus makes its own energy from food, which is endothermic. But a snake doesn't have a social construct. Two snakes come together, they mate, then they leave. They lay their eggs, then they leave. An orca or an elephant is another good animal. They have these unbelievable hierarchies, this social dynamic, this intelligent conversation, in some cases telepathic communication, all these things. Those animals don't want to be in solitary confinement. A snake that lives its life by itself, that is hardwired to just reproduce, eat, and go back to sleeping, doesn't care. You know what I mean? So it just sort of depends. It's very varying levels of intelligence.
Telepathic communication.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to expand on that thought a little bit?
Sure. We don't understand it, of course, not in people, not in animals, but it's strongly believed that certain animals, like jackals, African wild dogs, we have jackals here in India.
Yeah.
They have ESP, which is an ability to communicate without talking to each other. And we don't understand that, but what we understand is you see a pack of African wild dogs, painted dogs. 20 painted dogs will run out into the bush. And without making a sound, 2 of them will go this way, 2 of them will go this way, and 2 of them will chase the prey that way. And then these 2 will realize that the prey is going to turn this way, that they're chasing it, and they'll loop around and come and join this pack. And they've never spoken to each other. Something has triggered them to say, hey, come over here and help with the kill, or move over this side. There's communication of some kind. And so it's believed quite widely that there's some form of telepathic communication. Now, maybe it's body language, maybe it's smell, maybe it's a combination. I look at you and I don't just listen to your words. I'm looking at your body language and I'm looking, are you interested in what I'm saying? Everything, To me, that's almost a little bit of a form of telepathy because, I understand you want to talk to me right now.
Like, it happens in team sports a little bit if you've played with the same team over some time.
Exactly.
Like, you get each other.
100%. If you're, I'll use a rugby reference, I'm a rugby player, but you're an inside center and you've got an outside center and you two have played rugby together for 10 years, you don't even look where he's going, you just toss the ball.
Yeah.
And you know he's going to be there.
Yeah. Okay, wow. So you're saying orcas also can communicate in this manner. I have a crazy fact that I've read about orcas, that they have different accents based on where they're from.
That's right.
And sometimes if 2 groups meet and they exchange languages, sometimes one of the groups will drop their original language and adopt the new language.
That's what they say. Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
With the advancements in AI, do you think we'd ever reach a point where we could translate what the orcas are saying to each other?
There was a paper that came out, I want to say about a year ago, that established that it could basically learn to speak whale. So the AI would take all of the varying whale sounds and run it through, you know how AI works. Like first you learn pattern recognition, and then you begin to decipher it. And this paper, I think it was a paper, or maybe it was just an article, stated that within 5 years, we'd basically be able to learn whale. We'd be able to decipher what certain sounds and tonalities mean through pattern recognition. And that can only happen if you have enough of a data set. So first you have to get thousands of hours of sounds, and then you start to look for patterns.
That's what's stopping us now.
I think so.
Being able to communicate with animals.
I think so. I mean, to some degree. But it won't be like you and I sitting having a conversation, because they're there's language is not developed like that. It'll be food here, help me, I'm hungry, let's mate. It'll be very rudimentary sounds and things like that because that's how they've developed.
I think it was this gorilla called Lucy the gorilla. I don't remember the name of it. But it was this one gorilla that was taught sign language in detail in confinement.
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember her name either, but yeah.
She started communicating some pretty emotionally deep things with her.
Isn't that wild? Yeah, like I'm sad or whatever. Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Basically, that gorilla had emotions.
Yeah.
And it started conveying the emotions to the human beings.
Definitely.
My question is whether that gorilla could possibly communicate in detail with dogs or whatever. Because if we could crack one animal, does that lead us to understanding what other animals are thinking and saying also?
I think so.
You think so?
I mean, do you have a dog?
Yes.
You do? Here?
No, it's in my parents' house.
Gotcha. You understand when your dog's happy or sad.
Yes.
You understand when he's hungry or when he needs to go out and use the bathroom or something. And that is that's interspecies communication. Now, I probably wouldn't know your dog as well as you know your dog. Oh, he's just feeling depressed because I've been gone all day or something. You know that from pattern recognition. But that's still interspecies communication. Just like when he comes up to you and looks at you with those big eyes, you go, oh, he's hungry. He knows what he's trying to communicate to you and you're trying to communicate to him. I think, and I have nothing to base this on, but I think that gorillas are plenty smart enough. You could absolutely have a gorilla with a pet dog. You could 100% have that, and the gorilla would understand what the dog wants.
Okay. If I were to tell you that, hey, we found this technology which will let us communicate with animals, what would you ask them based on all of your life's experiences?
I would ask them to explain to humanity that they have a right to be here as well. I would say to whatever animal, I don't care if it's an ant or a polar bear or an elephant, I'd say, I don't even have a question about you or your biology or your anatomy or anything. How you feeling? Just explain to all these people that you are a being that deserves to be here and that we don't have the right to, I get it. I understand the hierarchy. Some animals, I eat fish, I eat beef, I eat everything. It's Western culture, as you know. But I would still want that cow or that fish or whatever it is to tell people, listen, I have a right to be here too. Don't cut down my home. Don't build another building. Don't pave the road. I also have a right to be here. And I think that would be a big message for people to hear.
Do you have any questions that are burning really intensely in your head for the animal kingdom? Like as a researcher?
Oh, lots. Lots and lots.
I know it's a very wide question, but...
The world is perfectly connected. We seem to forget that. And a good example is if you make a fish tank. Have you ever had a fish tank?
Yeah.
If one thing goes wrong, the pH goes off, the light goes out, one of the fish dies and it rots in the tank, anything, the whole tank goes to crap. What I don't understand, and nobody, I don't care who you are on the planet, understands, is how that is all connected here in the world. Because it is all connected. This plant is connected to you, which is connected to me, which is connected to a lion in Africa that's connected to a polar bear in the Arctic. We're all connected. The world is like that fish tank. If one thing goes wrong, if enough things go wrong, so I want my burning desire of understanding would be how am I connected to a tree in the Amazon? We're starting to understand it. We're starting to understand, okay, the Amazon is one of the second largest carbon sequestering body in the planet next to the ocean, meaning it takes in more carbon dioxide, puts out more oxygen than anything else on the planet except for the ocean. So now I'm starting to understand that, okay, I'm connected to that tree because if enough of those trees go away, there's no more air for me to breathe. So we're starting to just go, okay, I'm connected from this to this, but I don't know how I'm connected to this or this or this or this. I just want to know how it's all connected.
Can I have a go at it?
Please.
And this is based on a lot of the podcasts that I've heard and some of the stuff I've been reading lately.
Yeah, please.
So your friend Joe Rogan keeps hosting someone called Paul Stamets on his show.
Yeah, the mushroom guy.
So Paul Stamets is the world's leading expert on mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
So his field of study led me to understanding what something called the mycelium network is.
Mycelium network. It's like the neurons of our brain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in order to truly understand the mycelium network, I'm going to try explaining something else. Basically, and please help me out here.
Sure.
Basically, if there's a forest and one of the trees, for whatever reason, is not getting the right kind of nutrition from the soil or the right kind of water because it's not near a source of water. They say that there's a network of roots underground where the rest of the trees will kind of help that one tree.
That's right.
This is like a scientific statement.
That's right.
Right? This is proven by science. But the truth is that within the ground, just as there's a network of roots, there's also a network of what Paul Stamets calls fungi,
That's right. Yeah.
like a fungal network.
That's right.
Now, we see bits of that fungal network in the form of the mushrooms that grow out on the forest floor.
Which is the fruit.
Yeah.
That's right.
And they say that when you go through a psychedelic mushroom experience, one of the reasons it's larger than life is because you're taking in a little bit more of that mycelium network into your
interesting.
body. This is not us encouraging drug usage. This is literally...
Well, maybe a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but that's why they say that when you experience a psychedelic mushroom for the first time, it also connects you more to nature.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if, so there's this exercise where you take your shoes off and you just stand on grass and you feel grounded.
Yeah. Grounding, right?
Grounding.
Yeah.
The same thing's happening.
Yeah.
That the fungus on your skin surface is interacting with the fungus on the ground. Therefore, the information from your body is also being carried by the fungus into the ground and vice versa. And that's kind of what feels calming as well.
Yeah.
Amongst other things.
Yeah.
I believe that if you really map out the surface of the earth, if I stand on a patch of grass in Mumbai, on some level, I'm connected to a patch of grass in the middle of the Amazon
I think so too.
because of the surface of the earth.
Yeah.
And this is my kind of theory about why everything's connected on a biological level.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear what you have to say.
My understanding is very similar to yours of the mycelium network and from Paul Stamets. And it's the spores of the mushrooms that are on the roots. And there are many examples of that. Another one is when a giraffe eats a leaf at the start of a forest, by the time it gets to the end of the forest, the leaf's bitter. It doesn't want to eat it because the tree has told it through this network of information that, hey, the giraffe's coming, change your biology, change your chemistry. And I don't pretend to have a good understanding of mycology of mushrooms, but my question about the mycelium network, how does that travel through the ocean? Is it along the ocean floor? Is it across the surface of the ocean? How are us here in Mumbai connected through the mycelium network to the Amazon, the patch of grass in the Amazon? I think it's a variety of things. So the mycelium network is obviously a big information exchange. I think there are energies that we don't understand. There are all kinds of things. And I don't pretend to understand it, and I'm not particularly spiritual, but I think that it's this big thing that we don't fully grasp. And that's why I'd love to know, like, how are we all connected?
It's quantum field theory. That all of us on some level, even on an energy basis, are connected because we're all electromagnetic bodies.
That's right. Yep.
So all of us are always emitting a signal.
That's right.
Which is why a very common question I ask on the show is, hey, what was the vibe of that bear you encountered?
Yeah.
Or what was the vibe of the leopard you
Sure.
encountered?
Sure.
So what's been the scariest vibe you've encountered in the wild?
Oh, man.
the scariest vibe.
The scariest vibe. Nobody's ever asked me that before. There have been a few times where my heart has just sank because I'm in a situation where I hear something or I smell something and I think that I've gone too far. For instance, when I was working in Mozambique, we were tracking these big conflict elephants in Mozambique through pretty thick bush, and you couldn't really see them very far. Not like the jungle we were talking about, but still, you could only see maybe 50 feet. And I heard this elephant trumpet, and it's like, it was loud and it was through my body. Like I could feel it move through my body, like the bass of the sound. And I was like, oh boy, like we're too close. And I didn't even know where it was coming from other than a general direction. So there's feelings like that where the vibe is anger, and so the vibe from that elephant was, I'm angry. And it wasn't because we were there, it was because of the situation the elephant was in, because it was a conflict elephant. He'd had a bad relationship with people. But the energy, the vibe, whatever you want to call it, that was an angry animal. And so it doesn't matter that I was there to try and help him. He was angry, and that is a bad vibe. Like if you're around a relaxed tiger, a relaxed lion, a relaxed elephant, the vibe's fine. They don't want to eat you. They're not predatory. They're not angry. But when you're around something like an elephant that's the size of a powerhouse, and it's angry, like that's a bad feeling. Like I can feel that like we shouldn't be here. Like he's very angry at everything around him.
Remember our conversation at Vantara where we were talking about how elephants have really high EQ?
That's right.
And probably even though they're that distant from us, they're able to pick up on what we're feeling right now.
100%. No question about it.
That would be the case for wild elephants as well.
100%. Maybe even more. They're maybe even
more.
sharper because they have that wild instinct in them.
And therefore, that elephant perhaps was trying to place fear inside you.
And it worked.
But do you think that's possible?
Definitely. Or it just feels an energy of this thing is looking for me, you know, because we were tracking elephant, but we were tracking them to catch them and help them, but I can't communicate that to him. So all he knows is I'm hunting him. Do you know what I mean? I'm looking for him. And so that animal, if he's picking up on that, he's already angry because he had conflict with humans. Now he smells I'm a human, you know, and he knows that I have this energy of I'm hunting you, I'm looking for you, even though I wasn't hunting him to kill him, just hunting him down. And that's like, I'm pissed off and I want you to know that. Whether I'm projecting fear into you or challenging you or just telling you I'm upset, it all does the same thing, which threatens me.
What happened after that?
During that instance, we didn't track him down. We heard him and backed off. We ended up rubbing elephant dung all over us to try cover our scent, and went around to a different side of the wind and were able to spot him in the herd. And then we backed off and went and got the helicopters and then worked on the project. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Silly question, but when you're traversing through these kind of terrains, do you feel more like an ape? Because technically all of us are just really evolved apes.
I mean, I think it's because I'm a bit of a cretin, but I always feel like an ape. You know what I mean? Like I don't think of us as very superior as beings. Right? I always feel like an ape. Right? I am an ape. I'm just kind of a hairless one. Yeah.
I had a very, very fascinating podcast with a neuroscientist a few months ago. I found it so fascinating because he spoke about how we've evolved into being human beings and how we're going to evolve into being something more.
Yeah.
Where it's very likely that the next stage of evolution is going to be man and machine mixed, but also we are developing a bit of telekinesis. That's actively happening.
I think we're devolving.
You think we're going backwards?
I think we're turning into something else. Have you ever seen the renderings? If not, I could find it on my phone or show you, of what the gamer looks like in 100 years from now.
Like neck, like
so you end up like hunched over, and your eyes get saggy, and your thumbs are carpal tunnely, and your posture's bad, and your skin is bad, and it's. Can technology and all these things defeat that? Probably, you know, like Botox and plastic surgery and all these things. But I think we have, this is a crazy statement, I think the pinnacle of humanity was in like the 80s, 90s, because we had a little bit of technology, but we weren't reliant on technology for communication. We didn't rely on social media. You know, we weren't staring at our phones all day, our laptops, our TVs. And I think, my point being, this is a wild statement, but I think we have made technology inadvertently that is ruining us physically and mentally.
Do you feel that more when you're walking through a forest? Because they say that environments like that, like jungles, create something called forest bathing on you.
Oh, interesting.
It's the equivalent of like taking a dip in the ocean. You just feel a little more revived after.
100%.
So something happens in the jungle as well.
100%. The thing I just said, that routine of staring at your phone, staring at a computer, staring at a TV screen, whatever. I'm not that extreme, but I'm pretty close when I'm at home. It's not until I get into nature, whether it's jungle, desert, ocean, anything, that I break that cycle and then realize that I'm poisoning myself when I'm at home with these digital devices. Like at first you miss it a little bit. And I'm talking about when I go on like a month-long expedition or something. First I miss it and I'm like, I want to know what's going on in the news. What's Donald Trump doing? What's going on with the politics? Who's at war with who? You know, what's going on? And then after a week, 4 days, I'm like, who cares? You know? And then after a few more days, I'm like, I don't ever want to check my phone again. Like you have to break that addiction that we have to technology. And then once you break it, again, it doesn't matter if you're in the jungle, the swamp, the desert, the ocean, you feel so free and alive and connected. And you're connected to the environment that you're in. And all of a sudden you're hearing birds you've never heard before. And you're smelling things you've never smelled before. And that jungle bathing, it's just how humans are supposed to be. It's how humans were designed to be. We're not designed to stare at these bloody screens.
So you're saying that if you let go of technology over the course of 4 or 5 days and you cut off from the city life on all levels, your senses open up a little more?
100%.
And you've experienced this?
Time and time again. Your senses open up. Your self-awareness changes completely. All of a sudden, you can hear a little bit better. You could smell a little bit better. You can see a little bit further. And so that's your senses heightening because you're not being sedated by this digital device where you're getting a dopamine hit. Then all of a sudden your awareness of, I can use my legs. Like I can actually move faster than I think through this ground that felt so awkward when I got here. And you're like, I do have like a weird thing in my neck, but it's not like a pain that my chiropractor is, and I've read on Instagram or whatever. It's like, it's because I'm standing upright. It's like all these little things change and you feel the way that I think humans were supposed to feel. And I always find it's a balance because if you're in tough elements or you're not eating well, your energy, you're not sleeping well changes. But if you give it enough time to reach like a homeostasis when you're out in a remote area, then all of a sudden you're more energized, you're more alert. You wake up when the sun comes up. You go to sleep when the sun goes down. It's what humans were designed for.
What is an environment that you were just dying to get out of?
A couple. Anytime I'm like, I don't like cold. I grew up in Africa. I live in Southern California. I love the weather in India. So when I'm in the Arctic, I'm ready to get out of it. After a week of snow camping in the Arctic, get me out of there. Yeah. Like I just hate feeling cold all the time.
What does it feel like?
Pain. Like it's like, when you have that, like, have you ever done a cold plunge and ice bath?
Yeah.
That.
Okay.
Not as extreme, but like that all the time. Like where you just can't get warm and your fingertips always hurt a little bit and you never have full dexterity. And like, it's just like, ugh. But I think I would get used to it if I spent enough time in it, but I'm not used to it.
Imagine you spend a week in the Arctic and you're feeling like shit, and then a polar bear starts hunting you.
Exactly, yeah. And they're designed for it, yeah.
Has that happened?
No, I've seen polar bears in the Arctic, but I've never been hunted by one or anything.
I believe that there's a town in, it's either one of the Scandinavian countries, I think it's Norway, or it's an island which is under the jurisdiction of France. And I think it's in Canada, I'm not sure. But it's basically this town where it's a very widely accepted fact that the human beings are sharing the space with polar bears. So people just have pistols on them.
Yep. There's a few towns like it. Yeah.
There's a few towns like this.
Churchill in Canada, the polar bears come into town. I don't know if you've ever seen, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Please.
There's this fascinating island that's owned by Russia. I don't remember the name of it. I could look it up. And it's an abandoned town, and the polar bears live in the town. They're in the buildings, they're sleeping like in the houses, and it's just, there's no people left, and they're just like, polar bears have moved into town. It's so cool.
For context, explain the dangers of a polar bear.
The best way to explain it is that there are 4 animals in the world that choose to hunt people. That's it. We think there's hundreds. There aren't. There are tigers, there are leopards, there are crocodiles, and there are polar bears. At the top of that list is polar bears. Nothing can stand up to a polar bear. Nothing. And polar bears have a sense of smell that, I'm going to butcher this, but it's something like 10,000 times greater than the best bloodhound dog. They have strength that's unparalleled. They can stand 14 feet tall. They have knives for hands. Like they can open a car like it's a can of tuna. They are unbelievable predators.
But the babies look cute.
So cute.
Right.
And they don't look menacing. When you see a polar bear, you're like, oh. And then you see one covered in blood eating a walrus, and you're like, oh my God, yeah.
I'd still want to just sit next to it and kind of give it a hug.
I would too.
Keep eating that
I would
walrus.
too. Every time I see him, I'm like, we can get a little bit closer. Yeah.
Have you gotten really close to a sedated polar bear? Or?
Sedated? No. I've been like maybe 150 feet from fully alive wild ones. Yeah. But in the summertime, when they're not very predatory because of the heat. So in the winter and the spring is when they eat a lot because it's cold and they need a lot of calories to sustain. In the midsummer, when it's not that hot, they're only eating like scavenged things and once every week or something. So I've gone in the summer and walked very close to them.
Would they still hunt human beings in the summer?
Oh, yeah.
So how do you prevent yourself from being killed?
You read the body language. how is the animal reacting? Is it looking aggressive? Is it looking shy? You make yourself look big and dominant. You're with a group of people. You manage the wind so that they're not smelling you. You want them to smell you and be aware that you're there and not surprise them, but then not offer yourself up on a platter. So it's just a whole game of sort of understanding. And I'm very novice with polar bears. I've only seen them twice, but it's understanding how to do it.
What is their vibe in person?
Very chill, very relaxed. I think of a polar bear like the big guy at the bar that's smiling and happy-go-lucky and easygoing until you piss him off, until you threaten him, until you say hi to his girlfriend. And then he's going to come down. Then he's going to, then there's nothing you can do because he's this huge guy and he's going to kick your butt. That's how I see a polar bear. They're easy, they're chill, they're playing with their babies, they're relaxed until they're not.
Have you seen that Leonardo DiCaprio film? I think it's called The Revenant.
The Revenant, yeah.
Where he gets attacked by a grizzly.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's really good. I talked to him about it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
About that particular scene?
About that scene, yeah.
I highly recommend that everyone go watch The Revenant.
Great
it's a
movie.
Great film.
Yeah.
It won Leo's first Oscar.
That's right, yeah.
But the way they've shown the grizzly bear attack in that film, that'll kind of help you understand how dangerous grizzlies are.
I think that's fair.
On a lot of American podcasts, they talk about grizzly bears.
Yeah.
But it's not a conversation we usually have in India.
Sure.
So I'd love for you to kind of give us a 101 on grizzlies and these grizzly attacks. And I'd love some personal experiences.
I'll tell you about them, but I'll tell you what, I think your sloth bears here are much scarier.
Oh, really?
Much scarier animal.
The Indian sloth bears?
The Indian sloth bear, I think, is a much scarier animal. And I'll tell you why. And I'm happy to go back to grizzlies. But the grizzly bear has no competitors. Maybe a pack of wolves wants to look at its kill. It postures up, the wolves run away. In India, a sloth bear, which is a fraction of the size of a grizzly bear, has to contend with tigers, it has to contend with leopards, and it has to be a badass. You know what I mean? Like if you're a sloth bear and you've got a tiger hunting you, you have to have the attitude. And I've seen these videos coming out of various parks and things in India where a female tiger tries to look at a tiger tries to look at a female sloth bear's cub. And the mother just comes trucking in there and she's like, bring it on, standing up to a tiger. I think they're amazing. Yeah, I really do.
Why are they that angry?
Because they got to fight with tigers. They got to contend with bigger, tougher animals. So you know the saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Sloth bears have that fight in the dog.
So if we take a sloth bear in a forest like Tadoba.
Yeah.
And a tiger in that same forest, and we keep checking their patrilineal or matrilineal lineage. Like you go back down that genetic line. Do you think that entire sloth bear line evolved to become aggressive? Because
Absolutely.
They had to survive alongside tigers?
Absolutely. No question.
Right?
Somewhere way back in the evolutionary chain, tigers and sloth bears were fighting each other, and they still are. And only the best and the strongest sloth bears survived. And only the most aggressive sloth bears survived. And then they bred more strongest, most aggressive, and more strongest, most aggressive. And so they've had to co-evolve in order to combat each other. And grizzlies don't have that. Grizzlies are phenomenal. I mean, in a grizzly bear versus a sloth bear, the grizzly bear would win just based on size and strength. But they don't have predators. They don't feel threatened very often. They mostly just fight with each other. So they're the size of the dog in the fight. They don't have the fight in the dog.
So if we created an animal wrestling match between sloth bears and grizzlies, what would happen?
The grizzly would win against one sloth bear. I think if you put two together, the grizzly would go down. Yeah.
Wow.
I think. I have no way of knowing that, but yeah, I think sloth bears just have this unbelievable attitude. When I was up in the Himalayas, when we went to the red panda place, I remember, we'd walk out every morning early, beautiful misty mountains over the Himalayas, unbelievable high canopy looking at, for the kiwi berries where the red pandas eat. And one point in time, just got back from our morning walk. It was like 9-10 o'clock in the morning, went in for a cup of tea. And all of a sudden, these three guys who we'd never seen before just come sprinting in and slam the door shut and close the door. And they're like holding the door. I was like, what is going on? Because I've never seen the guys. They don't work at the little lodge we're at or anything. And I asked, like, somebody who spoke Hindi. I was like, what's happening? And they're like, oh, they just saw a sloth bear on the road. And I was like, get out of my way. I want to see the sloth bear. I was like trying to make them open the door. And they're like, no. Like they wouldn't let me open the door because they thought the sloth bear was right on the road. After like a minute, I got out to run and find the sloth bear and it was gone. I never saw it. But these guys were like, you're crazy. If you even see the sloth bear, it'll rip you to pieces. And I mean, some of that might just be lore, but that's how crazy they are. I've run right at grizzly bears to go see them. And it's
Really?
like, yeah, which is probably more me being stupid than behaving correctly. But yeah,
Why did you want to see the sloth bear?
phenomenal animal. Unbelievably beautiful creature. I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to harass it. I was just sightseeing on this trip. I just wanted to get safely close enough to see a sloth bear in the wild.
You want to share that grizzly story?
Mine?
Yeah.
Sure.
Where was this?
In Alaska. I've seen grizzlies 7, 8, 9 times, something like that. Always in Alaska. I've never seen them anywhere else.
How's Alaska as a land?
Beautiful. Harsh, but beautiful.
Harsh.
Yeah. It's cold. Even in the summer, it's cold. You know, might be nice and warm t-shirt weather in the daytime, but at night it gets cold, and it's like the Revenant. You know, I think that was technically up in Canada where they filmed it, but it's that. You know, it's this beautiful landscape of trees and glaciers and mountains, and it feels like it goes on forever, but it's a difficult land. The winters are incredibly harsh. It's very cold. And the wildlife thrives there. I love Alaska. Yeah.
What I've heard is that it's probably one of the most beautiful sections of the earth.
I think so. Yeah.
But also one of the least densely populated.
Oh yeah. There's nobody there for outside of various townships and things. It's unbelievable.
Have you ever been really far away from civilization in Alaska?
I went to Cold Bay, Alaska, which is in the Aleutian Islands, very near to the Russian border. And that's a town. It's like a little mining fishing town. But the remoteness of it, the Bering Sea, everything else. I mean, it wasn't like way out in the bush, but we took this tiny little plane to go to Cold Bay and then took a small little plane to go to a place called Hoodoo, which was just this little tiny wooden building in the middle of nowhere. And it was very remote, very, very remote.
Does it have Inuit people?
The area did. Well, I didn't see any there, but the area did. But I went to a place called Churchill Wild, which is outside of Churchill, Canada, Manitoba. And we were staying in it, looking for polar bears. And we were staying in an area there, the size of the state of California, which is a very large state. And we were the only people in an area the size of the state of California.
Wow.
That's pretty remote. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is hard to think about. Like, it's hard to visualize it. You know, it takes 14, 15 hours on highways to drive from one side of California to the other. And,
Indian context, it was like probably Uttar Pradesh. Like the geography of Uttar Pradesh. You're the only person in Uttar Pradesh.
That's right.
Only group of people.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the state, but that sounds about right. Yeah.
That's wild. Do you feel lonely?
I love it. I love it. I wouldn't stay there forever. I mean, I have a family and all that, but I love that feeling of I could be standing somewhere that no one else has ever stood. Or when you're in remoteness like that, every decision that you make is yours. Here, when I say here, I mean in the city, in Mumbai and Santa Barbara, California, where I live, every decision I make is dictated by a rule or a law or a social construct. But when you're out in remoteness, every single decision you make is yours. And if you make the wrong decision that leads to an accident or the death or something, that is your decision. And if you make the right decision that makes you happy or finds you the right food, that is your decision.
What could be a wrong decision?
Where to camp for the night. Oh, this looks lovely. There's no trees here. Right. Well, you're camping out, basically making yourself prey. Or you're camping in a low point where a flood could come. Or, there's a million things that could be the wrong decision. Yeah, I decide to walk this way because I don't want to go over the hill. Right. Well, that way is where the polar bears are, or the lions are, or whatever. Those are all wrong decisions. And they're not dictated by a law or a social convention or anything. They're dictated by your own decisions.
Probably the highest level of feeling alive.
I think so.
I've always wondered what goes on in your head. And I know you're a very loving family man.
Indeed.
When you go out in nature and you're away from your family,
Yeah.
does it change your opinion on the love you feel towards human beings?
I think so.
And
On both sides of the coin, love and hate. What I've experienced is I love my family very much. And I love people. Like, I'm not an introvert. You know, I like talking. I love talking to you when you call me just to say, hey, I love it. And the biggest loneliness I've ever felt, and the happiest happiness I've ever felt, and the saddest sad I've ever felt have been in nature, have been when I'm disconnected. Because again, I believe that digital device is a sedative. And the happiest I've ever been, probably ever, even more so, and I'm going to get in trouble for this, my wife's going to kill me, but more so than when I got married, more so than when either of my kids were born, was when I found the Fernandina Island tortoise, this rarest animal in the world that we found in the Galapagos 7-8 years ago. It was the happiest feeling I've ever had in my entire life. The saddest I've ever been is sitting on the Faroe Islands watching these pilot whales get slaughtered. And that, you know, there I was closer to civilization, but it was directly related to nature. And it's the highest highs and the lowest lows I've ever had are in nature. And I think you have to take that step back from the rat race of human life to feel those feelings.
Okay, so you're saying that technology, which all of us use,
Yeah.
definitely sedates us a bit from, and it keeps us away from maximizing our senses.
I think without a doubt, in every regard, emotionally, physically, spiritually, everything.
And when you get out in nature, first your senses kind of amp up, and then perhaps your emotional being also amps up after.
No question at all. And it's funny because I once wrote a TV show called was it called Surviving Love or something like that? So I own a production company, we make TV shows, and I once wrote the show. I think I called it Surviving Love because I believe if you and I dated, right? If you and I went on a date here in Mumbai, we'd go to a nice restaurant, maybe we'd go to a club or a bar afterwards, we'd have a drink, we'd have a great time. There's no discomfort in that at all. You know, maybe we don't get along very well and the date ends. Maybe we get along great and the date goes on and we go to 10 more. But there's no discomfort in that at all. If you and I, or me and a woman or whatever it is, went out into nature, we would have real raw experiences. We'd have challenges. We'd be challenged. Can we get across the river? Can we feed ourselves tonight? And then when we do feed ourselves tonight by finding a mango or killing a deer or whatever it happens to be, we'd feel real emotion because we've accomplished something real. We've killed that deer together to eat it together. Now we're not going to starve or we're not going to go hungry. We'd have actual emotional and physical journey together. And then we would know if we're compatible. We don't know if we're compatible because we went to a movie together and sat at a restaurant and ate a nice meal together because I could afford it and you wanted to look pretty. You know what I mean? I don't know if we're compatible at all from that. We haven't been through anything together. We haven't been tested. We haven't pushed ourselves and we haven't succeeded and failed. All we've done is go on a couple dates. And maybe we've done a little bit of this. Like we've emotionally succeeded or socially succeeded, socially failed. But when you're in nature, you're like this. Your highs are high and your lows are low. And that's how you find compatibility.
It's a great relationship hack.
I think so.
It's the quickest way to understand someone's character. Go on a trek with them at least.
Canoe.
A canoe?
A canoe. Canoe. Simple canoe. You put the girl in the front and you go in the back and you go on like a canoe safari down a river. Because in a canoe, two people are in control. You're the driver, you're in the front, you're the steerer, and in the back, you're the motor. If you can get along in a canoe, hey, paddle a little more on the left. Okay, I'll go on the left, you go on the right, and you overcome the river, whatever it happens to be, then you're compatible. I'm telling you, a canoe trip together tells you right away if you're compatible with the date, like within 2 hours.
What's a river you'd never take your wife with you?
Well, I grew up canoe safaring down the Zambezi River, which has so many crocodiles that they say you can line it head to tail across both sides with crocodiles. That's how many. Plus hippos, plus lions, plus leopards, blah, blah, blah. And I'd say the Zambezi, but I have actually taken my wife down the Zambezi because you have to understand it. Like if you just went, you wouldn't make it. You know what I mean? You have to understand, okay, the hippos are here. They have access to the deep water here. We know there's crocodiles here. If you understand it, you can do it quite safely. But if you don't understand it, you won't make it very far.
What was in your head when you were taking your wife down the Zambezi?
I was with one of Africa's greatest safari guides who I grew up learning under when I was there, a man named Stretch Ferreira. And I knew being with him, the risk was very, very low. And so I wanted my wife, we were just dating at the time, but I wanted her to understand what I had seen as a child. And so I wanted her to go down the Zambezi River in a canoe and see if we were compatible, because we were still just dating, and understand my life. Yeah.
You literally did that relationship. Wow.
She doesn't know that. She's going to find out now.
Fair. Much more interesting than going out on a date, honestly.
I think so.
Yeah. For the Indian listeners, some trivia about Forrest is that Andy Flower taught him cricket.
That's right. He was my cricket coach.
That's crazy to me. How was it growing up in Zimbabwe?
The best, man. It's very similar to India.
Yeah.
Because granted, India took its independence a long time ago, but it was a colony, and it has a lot of the same old English buildings and a tea and country club lifestyle, and very similar but different. And I think it's one of the reasons I feel so at home when I come to India, because there's so many things that are reminiscent of the way I grew up, which I'm not promoting colonialism, but that old colonial style that I grew up in, and that's a time past, and I'm not promoting it or anything else. I don't want people to misunderstand it. But
do you know where your forefathers were from?
Yeah, so on my mother's side, they were all of English descent, and came to Africa 6 generations ago. So they'd been in Africa a long time. And then on my father's side, they're American and then Italian before that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I just really enjoy people conversations.
Of course, yeah.
That's why all these
I love it. Let's talk about it all day. Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you about. So I come from Western science. I grew up in Africa and then in America. I went to university in America. I learned biology in America. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. The most eye-opening experience on my first trip to Vantara, which was shortly before I saw you. And it changed my whole perspective of humans' relationship to wildlife. And it was because of Indian spirituality. And I thought you might find this interesting. In Western science and conservation is about the greater good of the species. And what that means is, I'm trying to dumb it down, but basically, if there's an invasive lizard, like a tegu, let's say, which is a lizard that's invasive in the Florida Everglades, kill that lizard because all the native animals deserve to be there more than it does because it's invasive. Okay, that's conservation. In animal activism, that tegu has every right to survive and be here, and it shouldn't be in a cage, it should be out in the wild, and blah, 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 blah. But in India, and they're different sides of the coin, in India, and I found myself asking many of the keepers at Vantara about this, every single animal being, I believe this is a Hindi cultural thing to do with the gods, and please correct me if I'm wrong, every single animal not only has a right to be here, but we as humans, I believe in Indian culture, are servants to them. And correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm sure I'm messing it up a little bit, but basically the modality at Vantara, the way that they operate is that they're there to serve, to try and keep everything alive. So it's not just conservation or animal activism, it's everything all tied together. And that was sort of dictated to me through this spirituality of every single creature has a right to be here, and it's our duty as human beings to make their lives as comfortable as possible, which I found really fascinating because it goes against traditional conservation.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard of like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata.
I'm just starting to learn and not understand, but I'm just scratching the surface.
Fascinating stories, and we consider it our history.
Right.
Like we think that those wars actually happened in our ancient past. That's very Graham Hancock kind of a zone. And that's a field of research in itself.
Yeah.
So both the Ramayana and Mahabharata dictate a lot of our cultural values as a country.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be Hindu, but you'll still deeply be influenced by the Ramayana and Mahabharata in terms of thought.
Yes.
Okay. One's about righteousness and the other one's about warrior spirit. But these stories encapsulate these other 4 ancient books called the Vedas.
Okay.
And the 4 Vedas, loosely speaking, are what are the origin points of Hindu thought. One of the Vedas, I can't remember which one, talks about a modality of spiritual advancement where by serving beings that don't have the ability to speak for themselves, that counts as spiritual advancement.
That's what I was...
Yeah.
That's what is trying to be conveyed to me. And it's very hard coming from traditional science and conservation, Western traditional science and conservation, to understand how to tie spirituality into wildlife and make everything thrive. But it's when I learn it and I've begin to understand it, it makes so much sense, because everything we do, I think, at least in the Western world, is on extremes. It's like, left or right, but conservative or liberal, Republican or Democrat, whatever it happens to be. It's extreme, right or wrong, black or white, whatever it happens to be. But this idea of spirituality and wildlife and serving animals and conservation, and the invasive lizard has just as much right to live and as much animal life value as a goldfish, as an elephant, is like, oh yeah, it does make sense. But you have to sort of see it and understand it to come. Is that making sense the way I'm describing it? Yeah. It's fascinating.
I think at this point in the podcast, people have kind of gotten to know your personality.
Mm-hmm.
You're one of the most spiritual people I've met in my life.
What?
Yeah.
Please explain. Because I don't consider myself spiritual.
There's a word in Hindi. The word is niyat. Okay? Niyat. So niyat loosely translates to your deepest form of intention. So every action is actually governed by intention. And then if you go deeper than what is beyond intention, you reach like inner intention, the intention of your soul. That's niyat. So where does your soul operate from? Which dictates your mind's thoughts, which dictate your actions in the world.
That's so fascinating.
So I've gotten to know you now. And that's why I said at the start of the episode, it's a privilege getting to know you.
Thank you.
Because you're one of the cleanest niyats I've ever seen in my life.
So what is my intention?
Your soul took birth to serve wildlife.
That's how I feel, but I've never known how to articulate that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, because in our culture, we believe in like the cycle of birth and death. So we feel like every life is governed by the purpose that you're supposed to live out.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. And usually the suffering that you encounter at the start of your life will shape you up better for your purpose.
Interesting.
And you're someone who's found your purpose pretty early. There's a reason you're born in your family in Zimbabwe, in Africa. Then you had to go to America to like reach out to the world.
Yeah.
So you're at that intersection.
We had lots of suffering too.
Yeah,
we left during turmoil. Yeah.
I'm aware of that. I know that you carry it with you because we've spoken about this once, I think over a dinner. And I know you don't voice it out, but like I know you've not had a simple life.
No. Yeah.
So,
that's interesting.
Again, the Hindu take on this is that your soul had to go through that suffering to clean up your niyat even more.
How do more people understand that? I feel like if more, and I'm speaking for Western people because obviously Hindu people understand it already, but if more Western people understood that, they would feel more fulfilled with themselves if they could honor that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff we learn from the West and there's stuff that the general West can learn from the general East. And that's always been the nature of the earth.
Yeah.
That the two cultures have exchanged information.
Sure.
So, for example, we know that what we can give the West is philosophy.
Yeah.
And like deeper spiritual thought.
Definitely.
But there's a lot that we can learn from the West. This podcast exists because I witnessed Joe Rogan grow his podcast.
Sure.
So that's an example of me. And I mean, bro, I'm like talking to you right now because, I've digested all of Joe Rogan's work.
Sure. Yeah.
And that it was a big reason that I went out of my way to even like come and spend time with you in Vantara.
Yeah. Well, it's an honor. Thank you.
The honor's ours, genuinely. But my point is, I think there needs to be more English speakers from the Eastern world
Agreed.
To carry these messages out to
Agreed.
the West.
That can reach the West as well. Yeah. You know what I find interesting though, because I always go back to science in some regard. If I get sick cancer or something, I'm coming to India immediately.
Yeah. Why do you say that?
I think that you say that India and the East or Oriental people and nation learn from the West. However, I think they take some things and they advance it even beyond their own understanding, meaning India, let's take India for specifically. I think Indian medicine and health care, by the way, this might upset some people. Every good doctor in the United States is Indian. Everyone. Like, I'm sure there's some great Japanese and American and everything else, but everybody I know that goes to a doctor that's like, that's my doctor, he's my guy, he's fantastic, he's an Indian guy. Your healthcare, maybe not in general, but in Mumbai and Delhi and these places, I think is the best in the world.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is, if I'm not mistaken, most of that was learned by the West and their science and their medicine, but then you guys have elevated it over here. And I think we're still playing catch up in the West. So it's amazing that you take information and aspirations from the West and then advance it in some capacities.
Yeah.
We in the West, in my opinion, need to do the same from you in understanding that. Sorry, give me the name of it again.
Like the spiritual stuff?
Yeah, when it's your purpose.
Niyat.
Niyat. I need to write that down. You're like, we need to learn that from you guys. I'm not saying we're going to advance it like you have medicine, but like, I've never heard that before. And I'm not the most educated person in the world, but quite well read and quite worldly. It's the first time I've ever heard it.
Yeah. I think it's also the power of languages.
Yeah.
Like we have so many words in our language that explain very deep emotional concepts, but in like one word.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's also hard to grasp when you're not used to it.
Yeah.
Like, here's one word that means all these feelings and emotion. I guess like love would be an English equivalent. Everybody has love, but it's how do you explain love to a toddler? You know what I mean? It's very hard to understand. Yeah.
Do you think animals fall in love?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
With individual animals?
In some regards, yeah. Many monogamous creatures. There are certain duck species that if you kill the male of the duck or the female of the duck, the other one will die of a broken heart. There's no way to explain physically like what it's happened to it. It just dies of loneliness and a broken heart. Will never mate again. If that's not love, I don't know what is. We don't do that. If my wife dies or your girlfriend dies or something, you'll be upset, but you'll probably find another one. So will I. You know what I mean? Eventually, imagine being so connected to someone that if they die, you end up dying of a broken heart. That's love.
Any mammals that experience this?
Monogamous mammals that die of a broken heart. There probably are, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. There probably is one or two, though.
Bonobos?
Are bonobos fully monogamous? I don't think so. I think they're quite sexually active.
They're just very sexual.
Yeah, I think they go for it. Yeah.
Have you seen bonobos in the wild?
No, I've never have. I'd like to. Yeah.
Why are they more sexual than other animals? And the context here is that I think they're the only animals other than human beings that engage in oral sex.
Is that true? Dolphins do too, I think.
Really?
Dolphins definitely engage in sex for fun. I'm not sure how much oral sex, but it's just, that's what's so cool about nature is there's every spectrum of everything. From giant ant nest orgies to monogamy and ducks to, it's just like there's everything. And I think we fall in the middle of almost everything with love, with orgies, with reproduction, with attachment, everything except for intelligence. That's where we sit on top. That's why we are sitting in a studio that people have built.
Yeah.
And why we have these cell phones and mugs. And it's the only thing that we sit at the very top of.
I often have this weird thought experiment that I do where I think that, okay, so if we're human beings, we evolved from the shrews that survived.
That's right.
When the dinosaurs died because of that asteroid impact.
That's right.
And the shrews went under the ground.
That's right.
Survived the impact, came out, and then eventually became human beings.
Yep. All the mammals. Yeah.
All the mammals, including lions and tigers.
Everything.
So we all came out of the shrews, right? But do you think that there's a chance that the dinosaurs survived other than crocodiles and
chickens, birds? Yeah.
So there were dinosaurs that survived the asteroid impact as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, chickens are the closest living relative of a T-Rex.
Okay.
That's a true story. So it's, some small reptilian creatures survived and some small mammalian creatures survived and became the new dynamic that we have today.
I'll tell you where I'm going with this.
Please.
And it's a conversation we've had in the past, actually.
Sure.
But basically, so in India, again in Hindu culture, and this is a commonality that we share with other cultures as well. Okay? Snakes are considered very, very sacred.
That's interesting.
Okay? And if you ever really talk to a Hindu researcher about what we call Nagas. Nagas loosely translates to snakes. Nag translates to snakes. But when we use the word Naga, we're talking about a higher being that occupied the same geography that we once occupied. I mean, that we occupy today.
Interesting.
India was also home to the Nagas, who were a higher species, and They were benevolent and
which were nothing to do with snakes though. They were just a higher being.
they were reptilians.
They were reptilian. Okay, interesting.
And they're represented by snakes. So when we have Naga temples today, we also assume that the higher beings, again, this is kind of in a Joe Rogan zone, but the higher beings also occupied the same geography that we do.
Interesting.
The reason I'm bringing all this up is because I remember you and me had a very interesting conversation in Vantara
Yeah.
about snakes being a commonality all over the world in terms of culture, and
That's right.
people considering them sacred.
Without a doubt. Whether it's African cave paintings or here in India, which I did not have that understanding, Native Americans with rattlesnakes, and globally, Australian Aboriginals, everybody had this, I think, respect for snakes. Fear, but more respect.
Yeah. It's also considered a huge sin in our culture to kill a snake or to witness the death of a snake.
I think that's great. Well, at least the kill a snake part. Yeah. I think it's great that it's considered a sin to kill a snake. In Africa, even in extreme poverty, I've never seen, at least where I grew up in Zimbabwe, Southern Africa, anybody eat a snake. But we have a lot of animals. You know, we have so many big animals, similar to India. I've never seen anyone eat a snake, ever. Starving children, everything. I've seen them kill snakes. Like, oh, there's a mamba in the village or something. Kill the snake, throw it out. I've never seen anyone eat a snake. But in Thailand, Cambodia, certain places in Indonesia, they farm snakes for food. You know, and there's cobra farms and all kinds of things. And that relationship with snakes is very hard for me to understand because have I ever eaten snake? I don't think I have. I don't recall ever eating snake, but it's certainly not a desirable meat. You know, not when you can have a chicken or something like that. So it's very hard for me to understand why any culture would have a relationship with an animal that's not necessarily a good food animal and yet farm it for food. Even knowing that traditional Thai culture and traditional spirituality also has this spiritual connection to snakes. It's very strange. I don't know the answer. I'm just telling you. Yeah, I've seen it.
Again, I'm talking to the conservationist here now. What have you learned about this being?
Snakes?
Yeah.
As a wildlife biologist, well, first of all, they're incredibly villainized the world over. Like I was mentioning, they kill them on sight most places, you know, regardless of the species. And most of that comes from a lack of understanding and education. What's really funny is oftentimes the less educated you are, the less you villainize them. For example, when I was...
the less educated you are, the less you villainize them.
Yes. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. When I was in the Amazon, this is maybe going 4 or 5 years ago now, we were loading our canoes once in the Colombian Amazon, and the snake came rushing into camp. Like it just came cruising down the hill, right? We were loading the camps in the river, and this big green snake came running, like I'm cruising down the hill, and like 2 or 3 people, like kids, screamed and jumped back. And then some guy came over and just picked it up and started playing with it. And I don't remember what it was, actually, and I'm pretty good with my snakes. And there was like this yelling at each other in Spanish, or I think it was actually a native Indian language. And they were yelling at each other. And I asked our translator, I was like, what's going on? And he said, oh, it's not a venomous snake. So instead of killing the snake on sight, these are people who don't know how to read, don't know how to write, don't have cell phones or internet or anything like that. They knew that this was a non-venomous snake. And the one guy caught it and was showing it off to the children to say, you don't need to harm this snake. This is not a harmful snake. And then put it back in the grass and off it scurried. And yet, when I say less educated, they have no access to school, nothing like that, children. And yet you go to Nevada in America, where everybody has access to education and internet and everybody has an iPhone and everything else, and they see a snake and they kill it on sight. Doesn't matter if it's a gopher snake or a rattlesnake. Gopher snake's harmless, rattlesnake's venomous. They kill it because snake's a snake, you know, and I don't care if it, like, they're all dangerous, you know, and they're much more educated, and yet they have less respect for the animal than the people who have no education.
No solution here as well.
The solution is the right kind of education, which means taking 1 minute out of your day, of one day of your life, to learn the difference, and I'm going back to my experience, between a rattlesnake and a gopher snake. The pattern is different, the head shape is different, the tail is different. Okay, this one is very harmful, this one is not. The one that's harmful, just leave it alone. You don't have to kill it. The one that's not, if you want to play with it, you can play with it because it's not harmful. It's an exchange of an interaction that might be very positive for you and might be positive for the snake. Snake doesn't mind getting picked up, it really doesn't. But leave the other one alone. But it's the right kind of education. It's just a little bit of identification.
What's the positive that the snakes can possibly give you as a human when you're interacting with them?
Oh, a lot of good feelings. I mean, it's a phenomenal feeling to take something that is Medusa's hair, is Cleopatra's death bearer, the asp and all these things, and then to have a peaceful interaction with something the world thinks is deadly. It's a phenomenal experience to feel that way. And I think when you were at Ventara, I can mention several names. There are some phenomenal snake keepers there. And you see that passion for this bizarre creature, this long noodle of death, And then on the flip side of that, I don't think that snakes necessarily love. I can tell you my snakes love being held by me. I have 2 rosy boas, small Native American boas. They love being held by me. Why? Because one of them I had for 15 years. It knows me. It knows my smell. I'm very warm, and it's a cold-blooded animal. As I was saying, ectothermic, getting heat from the environment. So when I put it on my arm or my hand, it gets to warm up by me holding it. It feels nice. It's a positive interaction for both of us. Yeah.
You feel nicer after holding it.
Absolutely. Positive. And I think the snake does too. Yeah.
Weird question, but have you actually gone to the interiors of China?
Never. I've never been to China. Only to Hong Kong.
They say that there's some pretty crazy wildlife.
I'd love to go. I'm trying to go in March of this upcoming year.
Really?
Yeah. To Shanghai and then out from there. Yeah.
Do you get a chance to explore native culture in America?
I have the chance. I'm very fortunate in the regard of I have the chance to explore any of that as much as I like, and I don't choose to. So that's my own downfall. But the United States, it's funny because I've been to 80 countries now, something like that, 85 countries, and I've probably been to 6 states in the United States.
Really?
I don't spend enough time in my own backyard, and I should, because the U.S. is incredible. Some of the highest freshwater fish diversity, highest turtle diversity, great mammals, incredible lands. There's great stuff there, but I don't spend enough time there.
It's wild to me that you've gone to like Chambal Valley, but not traveled in USA.
Yeah. I've never been to South Dakota or North Dakota, but I've been to Chambal. Yeah.
That's crazy. Could you give the audiences some context on the Galapagos Islands? That's one of those locations that's kind of like a dream travel destination for a lot of people.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's the birthplace of the understanding of evolution, right? It's where Charles Darwin went when he saw the finches on the different islands, the little birds, and said, why does that bird and that bird that are the same species have 2 different beaks? And it's because they evolved differently. Same with the tortoises. One has a long neck, one has a short neck. And it's just, it has no real predators on land. And so none of the animals are scared of anyone. So you can walk on land and you will never understand this being Indian, like I'll never understand this being from Africa where there are lots of predators, or North America or anywhere. You go to the Galapagos and you walk by the seals, by the iguanas, and they just look at you like, you'd never hurt me, and they just have no fear of humans because they didn't co-evolve with a predator, a land predator. It's that. And it's sad in a way because that's what New Zealand was like, and they've pretty much eliminated all their big animals. And there are a few places that were like that, but the Galapagos is like a time capsule in the sense of it's still like that today. And they've done a great job managing it. But you just think like Mauritius, the island off the coast of Africa. Yeah. The second settlers got there, they're like, ooh, dodos, bonk. They just bump them on the head until they were extinct because they had no fear of people. They just sit there and look at them.
This is like the last 200, 300 years, right? Where Mauritius has been, I don't want to call it invaded, but whatever.
Yeah, colonized. I would say 200-ish years ago. And the dodo, the big iconic bird that people, they didn't even eat them. Apparently they didn't taste good. So people just walk around, bump them on the head for fun because they were dumb and they'd look at you.
Wow.
Yeah. And they weren't dumb. They just had no fear of people. Yeah.
So many tangents here. Yuval Noah Harari wrote this book called Sapiens, which I keep bringing back up on the show. I think there's a chapter in it which mentions the time that Australia and New Zealand were originally inhabited.
Yeah.
Originally. So this is probably like 50,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's an assumption that within the first 1,000 years, almost all the local megafauna's populations were wiped out.
Yeah.
So we don't even know the kind of like animals we've lost.
For the most part. I mean, there's some things, giant moas, which are big, like basically like an ostrich, and Haast eagles, which were an eagle that would literally grab people. They were so big. We know about some of them, and then some of them yeah, we probably are lost to memory.
I'd seen this fascinating clip of you way back from JRE about dragons. I think that's how I discovered your episode.
That went like so viral.
Yeah.
So much so that Joe got made fun of on like a morning show in the United States. And he texted me and he's like, look at this. And he changed his Twitter handle to Dragon Believer. Like, it was like a whole thing. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Do you want to recap that conversation a bit? Because according to me, it is linked to megafauna in Australia, New Zealand, and the Galapagos.
Yeah, so I want to first of all say that, like, I don't necessarily believe in dragons, but there's a fun theory, and I explained this to Joe, that dragons were real. And he says, well, why were dragons real? I said, well, because if you look across the planet, China, India, I imagine, but I don't know for sure, Roman Empire, South America, I think Australia, South Africa for sure, they all had a giant fire-breathing flying lizard, or at least they all had a giant flying lizard, and that was a dragon. And this is all around the same time period. Now you ask yourself, okay, giant flying lizard, well, that's just folklore. Well, none of these cultures communicated, so it wasn't like I traveled to India and said, check out these flying lizards, and you traveled to South America and said, check out these flying lizards. But what I took it one step further to explain to Joe that what are the animals that are hardest to fossilize? It's birds. Why is that? Because if you're a large animal that flies, you have to have hollow bones. And hollow bones don't fossilize. They disintegrate for the most part. So even if they're, by the theory, had there been dragons 1,000 years ago or whatever it was, it would have been very hard for them to fossilize. Because a fossil is like 1 in 10,000, 100,000 animals. Do you know what I mean? If that. I'm making those numbers up. But like, a fossil forms from 1 in a bazillion animals that happen to get stuck in a tar pit or happen to die in an anoxic mud hole or something like that. So maybe dragons were this very small group of animals that we never saw, because, we're always discovering new dinosaurs and things. And they were flying lizards. And because they were flying lizards, they covered the whole world and people saw them and they drew them in books and they wrote about them in fables. And then they were hunted out or they were killed out or climate change killed them, whatever it was. And none of them fossilized because they had little frail flying bones, which is what allowed them to travel around the world and also made them easy to kill.
Do you believe that this is a possibility?
Not really, but I think it's fun.
But what makes your belief? Like,
the fact that we have no physical... I am a scientist at the core of it. I'm a biologist. And everything that I choose to believe in, as far as Bigfoots and dragons and thylacines and everything in between, is based on scientific fact. And there is no scientific fact that there was dragon, but the theory is really fun. Yeah.
Okay, broader conversation. They say that all the animals and plant species that we see around us today is 1% of everything that ever existed on this planet.
That's right.
That's scientific fact?
I don't know if that's the number, but it's something like that. But that's not because 99% has... Well, it is because 99% has gone extinct, but it's more because 99% has changed over time.
Evolved into whatever we know the Earth as today.
That's right. It's not like, it's not like 1,000,000 years ago, there was 99% more things. It was just different things.
Do you enjoy conversations about megafauna?
Absolutely. You mean extinct megafauna?
Extinct megafauna.
Absolutely. Any of it.
The predecessors of the animals we know today.
Absolutely.
Like, I personally find it very, very fascinating.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, stories about monsters fascinated me a lot. But if you actually gauge real history, this is the closest thing to monsters.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think lots of our thoughts and understanding of monsters come from digging up a skull of a mammoth, or finding a T-Rex head when you're a primitive person, 500 years ago, and you find a T-Rex head in the sand,
Right.
not a decomposing head, a fossil, and you go, there are monsters here. It's not like humans knew what fossils were 500 years ago. We didn't know what that was. A bone was a bone, and then you find a T-Rex skull, and all of a sudden, let's say you find it in China, the whole of China, this word spreads of this big monster with the big teeth that comes from the mountain or comes from the tar pit or whatever. Now you've got a monster.
Probably led to the legend of dragons.
For sure. Godzillas and dragons, and I think it could be anything.
Like, we can't be the first humans in history who've discovered dinosaur bones.
No way. Of course
Right?
not. Yeah, no way.
Probably would have been discovered 800, 900 years ago.
No
also.
question. I mean, there are places you can go, Moab, Utah, places in South Africa where I grew up, where you can see dinosaur footprints in the
Really?
Oh, full, clear as day, walking along the mud. Imagine you're a primitive person 800, 1,000 years ago, and you're out hunting an antelope or a deer or something, you come down into the valley, you've spent your whole life hunting. All you know is tracking animals, looking at footprints. All of a sudden, there's a lizard footprint this big. You're going, oh my God, there's a monster in this valley. You don't know that it's fossilized and stuck in stone for millions of years. Yeah.
That's probably the origin of the dragon.
For sure. Yeah.
So megafauna, something that's fascinated me so much since I'm a kid, but I'm never able to convey my fascination correctly to people who don't give a shit about megafauna.
Tell me, I'm in.
Why do you think people need to know about megafauna?
You're talking specifically about extinct megafauna, is that right?
I mean, I'm talking about like saber-toothed cats.
I got you.
Woolly
Yeah,
mammoths.
yeah, like Pleistocene animals. Yeah.
It's a short-nosed bear?
Short-faced bear.
Short-faced bear.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Joe Rogan keeps talking about.
Does he? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, look, so those Pleistocene animals that we're talking about, those extinct megafauna, are the foundation for the animals we have today. Elephants are only here. The Indian elephant, the very elephant I've seen hundreds of in India this week, is 99.6% related to a woolly mammoth. They share 99.6% of the same DNA. Basically the same animal. You just add a little hair and make it cold tolerant, you know? So like, it's important to know these things. I don't know if it's important to know them, but if you are interested in how our animals became what our animals are today, it's nice to know where they came from.
Have you followed Colossal Life Sciences and everything that's happening?
I'm an advisor to them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
wow.
a conservation advisor for them.
I would love for you to give some context to people who've not heard of it, because this is one of the most fascinating scientific journeys that these guys are taking.
Ever. So Colossal Biosciences is a biotech company developed by my good buddy Ben Lamb, his head of animal, it doesn't really matter who they all are, a company of incredible visionary people that basically Ben, the guy I mentioned, talked to a man named George Church, who's very famous for genetics, and said, what could you do if you had $1 bazillion, money was no object, what would you do? And he goes, I'd bring woolly mammoths back. He goes, well, unfortunately, we can't do that, Ben says. And George goes, yeah, we can. We just need money. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, we could absolutely, like the science is there, technology is there, just nobody's ever been able to afford it or fund it.
The context here is this is Jurassic Park in real life.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But go on.
Anyway, so I'm making the story probably too long, but
No.
Ben is an entrepreneur and he comes from a tech background. He goes, well, let's do it. Let's raise the money. So long story short, this company, Colossal Biosciences, was born. I became one of their conservation advisors. I think there was like 30 people at the company at the time. There's now hundreds, if not thousands. And so I was in the very first, I got contacted by Ben, who's now a very close friend. And he goes, hey, you're one of the world's leading conservationists, like public figures. Would you be an advisor to us? And I was like, of course. So Ben told me, because I was very skeptical, I was like, what are you doing? He goes, we're bringing back extinct animals and repairing the ecosystem where humans have wiped out extinct animals. I go, okay, well, that's not real. He goes, yes, it is. And he explained to me that the technology they have, long story short, will make woolly mammoths. They're going to make dodos, put them back in Mauritius, thylacine or the Tasmanian tiger. They've done a proof of concept with the dire wolf. They've just announced the moa in partnership with the New Zealand government and a bunch of Maori various groups. And yeah, my favorite part of Colossal, because there's a couple different divisions of it, is extinct animals where I made my mark in the world. And Colossal is righting humanity's wrongs. They're taking animals like the thylacine, which was driven to extinction by a literal bounty placed on their head, or the dodo, which, as we talked about, was just bopped on the head by Western colonialists until it was gone, and saying, we can fix that. We can genetically engineer, we can take the closest living relative, in the case of the dodo, the Nicobar pigeon, which is a pigeon about this big. We can use, it's closest living relative. We can use a process of science, primordial germ cells, whatever it is, and put a dodo into a chicken egg so that when that chicken, I'm oversimplifying it, when that chicken lays an egg, you have a dodo. We make enough of them, you put them back in Mauritius, we fix the ecosystem. That's cool. Yeah.
As a conservationist, how do you see this journey panning out over the next 20 years?
That's probably the best question I've ever been asked about it, because everybody always looks at like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? The real question is, how does this technology help repair ecosystems over the long run? Last year, we lost northern white rhinos completely. The genetics are gone. There were 2 females left. They died. There are no more northern white rhinos. Gone. Humans have hunted them out for their horn, for, excuse my language, BS medicine. It's not real. We know that rhino horn is the same thing that's in our fingernails or our hair. It's bullshit. Forgive my language because I get very upset about it. What Colossal Biosciences can do for conservation for the next 20 years is they can take that biobank genetics from those two animals and know that they've got that because we only lost those animals recently, and bring back that species so they can right humanity's wrongs. And the best way to put it is, okay, well, great, there's rhinos again. Right, but when you remove rhinos from an ecosystem, when you remove the apex predator thylacine from Tasmania, or the largest seed disperser in Mauritius, the dodo, from that ecosystem, the whole ecosystem gets shifted and ultimately somewhat ruined. And the way I like to describe it to people is, if you're an alien, because you look at Mauritius and you go, wow, Mauritius is beautiful. This ecosystem's perfect. Or you go to Tasmania and you go, wow, this place is perfect. If you were an alien and you landed on Earth and you found a tribe in the middle of the Amazon and you looked at the people and they were all yellow because they had jaundice, you'd go, people are yellow. Humans are yellow. They're fine, but they're sickly and they're yellow. That's just how they are. They don't live very long. Because that's how we see these places now. We go, it's fine. It looks great. It's beautiful. It's a yellow person. People are yellow. No, those ecosystems are sick. They have jaundice, to be a little bit, I'm being a little bit grandiose, but those ecosystems are damaged. Tasmania is massively damaged. It's got facial tumor disease in some of their animals, mange like crazy, macropods that are just exploding and destroying the environment because there's no predators. Because humans put a bounty on their only predator's head and wipe them out. And now Colossal Biosciences, it's very ambitious, but they're saying, we can fix that. And here's how we can do it. And that's cool. So that's the future of it. That's fixing those environments.
What are they going to do with those direwolves that they've created?
So I wasn't really involved in that because it's not conservation related. But my understanding is the direwolves were a proof of concept. They wanted to show, look, put our money where our mouth is. We really do have the technology. Like, we just brought back direwolves. And those animals will never be released. They'll always be kept in captivity because direwolves were not expatriated by humans and breaking the ecosystem. Direwolves, like our other megafauna that we were talking about, Pleistocene megafauna, naturally died out. So that was just a proof of concept to show what their technology is capable of. It was a great PR stunt because everybody in the world was talking about them. And now they're on to some of the other things.
How big does an adult direwolf get?
I don't think anyone actually knows the answer to that. But
really?
I don't think we really do. But we know that, I don't know about the ones Colossal made, but there were direwolves up to like 180, 200 pounds. You know, a regular gray wolf is like 50 or 60 pounds. So much bigger. Yeah.
Double the size?
More than double. Yeah.
More than double.
They got huge. Yeah.
Okay. And have you ever seen gray wolves in person? They're very, very big.
Fascinating.
It's not
big.
It's not kind of bigger than a dog.
No.
It's literally like thrice the size of your average.
Yeah. It's like, seeing a serval, if you know what that is, and then seeing a lion. Or, the size difference is huge. Yeah.
Like, could a direwolf kind of fill out this room?
Yeah, I mean, a direwolf would be from almost where the wall is to probably where your knees are. With its tail to head, it's like huge animal. Yeah, yeah, it's a big animal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you see Colossal bringing back dinosaurs as well?
So, again, I'm on the conservation side, not the genetic side. But my understanding is that's not possible because what Colossal does, we were talking earlier about the woolly mammoth being 99.6% related to the Indian elephant. So what Colossal does is they go, okay, we have a bunch of DNA from woolly mammoths. Some of it's only 10,000 years old. It's fragmented. The DNA, if you think of the double helix, like this piece is broken and that piece is broken and that piece is broken. How do we repair that? Okay, we go ahead and we take from the Indian elephant, close living relative, this piece and this piece and this piece. Now you've got a complete DNA that's very, very close to a traditional woolly mammoth. So in other words, if I crack this cup, it would be pretty easy to take a couple pieces from that cup and fix it. But if I took this cup and smashed it against the ground, that's T-Rex DNA.
Gotcha.
It's so fragmented and so destroyed because it's millions of years old, there's no amount of glue that can put it back together.
There's a crystal on this wall.
Oh, yeah. Is that amber?
Yeah, it's amber and it's got like a bug in it.
Cool. Where'd you get that?
Just one shop in Dubai.
Amazing.
Happy
That's
to give it to
amazing.
you.
No, I wouldn't take that from you, but that is spectacular.
I purely bought that because of my love for Jurassic Park.
Oh, you got to keep it. It's spectacular. I love that. I think it's fascinating.
Is that possible though? The procedure they've shown in Jurassic Park where they take blood out of one of these bugs, which is We don't know.
It sounds good. I don't know. That's not my department. I'm the big animal guy. Yeah.
Would you want to see dinosaurs back in this world?
Selfishly, 100%. It would be amazing to go to a real life Jurassic Park. Is it a good thing to do for wildlife or conservation? Absolutely not.
Why?
Because dinosaurs have been gone for millions of years. They died out of natural causes, nothing to do with humans. We should not be bringing dinosaurs back.
Hypothetically, if we found an island which is like empty with like bare minimum flora,
Somewhere off Costa Rica, you know.
and we figured out how to get blood out of those
I'd be
bugs.
the first one to go. It'd be so sick. Are you kidding me?
What would actually happen on the island?
I mean, it would probably collapse itself.
What does that mean?
Like, so say we make Jurassic Park, right? So you make predators and you make prey and you make bugs and you make everything like they did in Jurassic Park, and you let it all go. One, it would definitely kill all the people. I mean, we could probably manage it, you know, like we could make enclosures and things, but it would collapse itself because it's an island. It's insular. So if you put a tiger and a deer in a room, eventually the tiger's going to eat the deer, and then the tiger's going to starve to death.
Oh.
That's the same thing as putting them on an island. Eventually, the T-Rexes will eat all the Brachiosauruses, and then they'll die of starvation. You'd have to keep managing it, you know, like conservation style. It wouldn't be self-sustaining.
Dear Elon Musk.
Yeah, exactly. He could do it. Way cooler than a race to space.
I mean, if there was one guy who could do this. But I don't know. Say if we do it, hypothetically.
Yeah.
Would that increase your knowledge level as a wildlife conservationist?
Of dinosaurs?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. It's more fauna to understand.
Like on a surface level, I mean, the current narrative is because of Jurassic Park, people assume that dinosaurs look like big lizards.
That's right.
But it's possible that dinosaurs really look like big chicken.
Yes, feathered.
Feathered, right?
Yeah.
But we don't know if that's completely true, or do we?
Velociraptors are a good example. You've seen Jurassic Park, so you remember the velociraptors in blue and that. We've now basically figured out that velociraptors were pretty much big chickens. There's recent evidence to suggest that T-Rexes could move at a top speed of 2 miles per hour. That's pretty not intimidating, given that, you know, we can run at 20, you know? So who knows? But that evidence, I always wonder, because I'm not a paleontologist, it's like, how the hell do they know that? You know, like
What kind of conversations do you have with paleontologists?
when I'm speaking to a paleontologist, usually the conversation is to do with how animals today relate to animals that used to be, and how those, you know, those waves and cycles have come to be. And discovery, that's what we have in common. I go out to discover rare animals or animals that were thought extinct or whatever it is that I'm doing working in conservation. And they're out to discover the same thing, but in the ground.
Fair.
Yeah.
There's a JRE episode about, I forgot his name, but this one gentleman who had gone to DR Congo to search for the Stegosaurus,
Yes.
which is apparently hidden somewhere in DR Congo.
They call it Moko Malembe, I think it
Yeah.
is, something like that. And it's this idea because there are all these drawings and paintings and legend and stories of this big lizard in the Congo, and it looks like a Stegosaurus or whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know much about it, but yeah, fascinating.
Is that something that interests you as a...
Look, there are so many animals. The saula, have you ever heard of that animal? The saula is literally called the Asian unicorn, okay? And until, I'm going to get this wrong, 1992 or something like that, there were all these stories of a unicorn in the Annamite Mountains of Laos. A unicorn. What did Western scientists do? Go, bullshit. There's no unicorns. It doesn't exist. Until one day, a guy named Bill Robichaud, who's a friend of mine, was working in the Annamites, and he hears they've caught one of the unicorns. He goes, wait, what? He's like, yeah, there's a live unicorn at the chief's village over there. And he's like, what? Like, yeah, they've got one. And this is an oversimplified story because they found some skins and stuff, but whatever. He runs over to the village. Sure enough, there's sitting the unicorn. The saula is sitting in a pen. This is the largest bovid, which is a cow-related animal, largest animal discovered in recent history. It was in the 90s. It's the size of a cow. Nobody even knew it existed because it's a super shy, super quiet, super peaceful animal. Sadly, that very same animal named Martha, the Saula, the Asian unicorn, died the next day or 2 days later, probably from stress. Nobody really knows. And that was the first and last time that one has ever been seen by Western science.
Wow.
Yeah. But that's a unicorn. They call it a unicorn not because it has one horn, but because its horns are so symmetrical that when you look at it from the side, it looks like one horn. Their horns are perfect. And that's the same as saying there's a giant lizard in the Congo. Bullshit. I shouldn't swear so much. That's not true. That's not true until somebody finds it. You know what I mean? And I don't know. That doesn't mean that it's a stegosaurus or whatever they think it is. It might be a crocodile that has long legs that we've never seen before because it's super elusive. Who knows? Just like the unicorn wasn't a real unicorn. It was this big cow relative with perfect, beautiful horns. Beautiful animal. But everybody said it's crap. And then sure enough, there was one sitting in the pen.
I think I know what your answer is going to be, but is it fair to say that the entire landscape of the Earth has not been explored yet?
Absolutely. Yeah. Not even close.
Not even close.
No. There are vast tracts of land that, certainly no modern humans have ever stepped foot on. Maybe ancient humans have. But I think exploration now is not just, okay, we've never been here before, but it's what lives here that we have never actually documented before. A good example of that is there was this mountain range in Mozambique that everybody knew was there. You can literally see it from like towns and villages and things, this mountain range. Some scientists decided to go to the top of it, got to the top of this plateau on the mountain range. Every species there had basically never been documented before. It was an entirely new ecosystem. I forget the name of the mountain, on just one mountain. And almost every species that lived on top of that mountain was endemic, meaning it didn't live anywhere else. Hundreds of new species like that in one ecosystem, just sitting on top of a mountain. That's exploration.
There's more ecosystems like that yet to be discovered?
Definitely.
Okay. Would they contain anything that we assume could be like monsters?
Absolutely. But that's what this dinosaur in the Congo might be. It might be a big crocodile. It might be a monitor lizard that's 10 feet long. Who knows? Because it's in a remote area that gets very little science. It's now a war-torn, conflicted area. Who knows?
Yeah. You've explored the Amazon rainforest a fair amount, right?
Yeah, a good amount, yeah.
But there's a limitation on how deep you can go.
Absolutely, yeah.
What causes that limitation?
Time.
Oh.
Yeah.
And resource, like...
Time and resources, yeah. I mean, there's a guy who just paddled the entire length of the Amazon River, source to sea, not long ago. And, people are doing it. But if you want to get to the most remote... A river is basically a highway. You know what I mean? It's a highway with a boat. And only 5 or 10 people in history have ever gone source to sea of the Amazon River. And that's a highway. So think about those tracts of jungle or those mountain systems that you don't have a highway to go down. They're out there. So you need one or the other. You either need Elon Musk's money to bring in a helicopter that has fuel stations that fly, you know what I mean? Or you need to spend 5 months trekking to an area that the nearest road is 300 kilometers away and nobody's ever been to that mountain range.
5 months trekking.
I mean, something like that. Yeah. And before I had kids, bring it on. But now, 5 months in the Amazon sounds impossible.
Would you want your kids to take up the same job that you're doing now?
Yes and no. It's a bit dangerous. I've had a lot of close calls with animals and run-ins and 2 plane crashes and, you name it. Yeah, man.
2 plane crashes?
2 now, yeah. And my son's destined for it, my older son. He's destined for it. I can see it in his face. Only thing he's interested in, like me, is wildlife and animals. And it doesn't matter how long it takes him to find a bug or a snail or an earthworm. He's out there all day and night. Yeah, so he's destined for it.
When did these plane crashes happen?
The first one was when I was like 15 years old. My mom was a bush pilot in Zimbabwe, where I grew up. And the plane got struck by lightning. All the instruments went out. We were in a big storm. So I had to emergency land. And as we came down to land, hit a termite mound, ripped the wheel off the plane. Plane started to spin. Then hit another termite mound with the wing, and plane started to spin this way. So it was emergency landing, crash. We were okay, bangs and bruises, all that. That was, like 20 years ago now.
Do you remember it?
Oh, yeah, I was terrified.
What did it feel like when the lightning hit the plane?
Nothing. Just a flash of light.
That's it?
Didn't hurt us, no zap, nothing. Just everything went dark. Like all the instruments went out. This is an old school plane, an analog Cessna. So you could, but everything, all the instruments went out. So emergency landing. And then the scary part was like my mom being like, buckle up, like, hold on. She's like putting her arm and trying to like hold the plane. And it was just her and I in the plane. And then just boom, boom, like, and it was all happened really fast.
Sorry, I'm asking you this.
No, it's okay.
But while the plane was going down, what was going on in your head?
I was only 14 years old. So I knew it was bad and I was scared and I didn't really understand what was happening. But when I looked at my mom and I could see how nervous she was, I knew something very bad was coming. So I was just, what was going through my head was just scared. Like, I don't know, hold on, buckle up, scared. You know, like very simple. Yeah.
And when the plane kind of became still after the crash, what did you think?
You know, in like a movie, when you see the explosion and then you just hear the like silence and ringing. My memory, and again, I was 20 years ago, I was a teenager, but was like, I was holding like this, and it was just like that moment in the movie where everything's just silent and that ringing. And I just remember like, I was a little bit sore, but nothing was like bad. And I hadn't looked at my mom because I'd been closing my eyes as we crashed, obviously. And I remember thinking to myself, I hope my mom's alive. And then I turned and she was like sitting there like shocked like I was. And everything was okay. But there was like a minute, I would say, where we just sat frozen and before I turned my head, and then it was like, okay, you know, like everybody was okay. Yeah.
Do you and your mom ever speak about this crash?
Oh yeah. It's not like something we talk about often, but it's not, we like laugh at it, you know? African mentality is very different. My family's 6th generation Zimbabwean African. And they have a very thick skin. You can show emotion, but like fear, danger, accident, it's covered up with laughter and making fun of it. So you don't pretend like, how did that affect you? How did that change your outlook? Or how did that affect your life? You go, remember that crash, Mom? Yeah, that was funny. Hey, yeah, that was pretty bad. Remember how banged up you were? Yeah. And then you move on. That's like a very African way to deal with things. Yeah. I don't know if it's clever, but it's what we do. Yeah.
Like Indian reference point for Afrikaners are Zimbabwean and South African cricketers. Like
Sure.
We have a certain image of them.
Yep.
Tough guys.
Yeah.
Intense guys.
Very, yeah. Especially the Afrikaners. So my family was English, which was not Afrikaans. Afrikaans was Dutch. But yeah, the Afrikaners are very tough. I mean, that's why they're the best rugby team in the world.
Very fascinating subculture for me.
Yes, yeah. They're interesting. Tough people. Very tough people. Very full of pride for South Africa as a nation. You see that during the Rugby World Cup. You see that during the Cricket World Cup. Very full of pride for where they live. And they live in South Africa's difficult place. Terrible crime. Some of the worst murder rates in the world. And yet these guys dig their heels in, laugh, like I just said, at all their problems, and put their head down and work. It's an interesting modality.
I have an Afrikaner friend from South Africa. He's moved to the UAE. And I think he's from like interior South Africa. And he was telling me how there's a lot of tension between communities right now.
Oh, tons.
And there's some very intense crimes happening towards the Afrikaners.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've heard stories about basically, so I believe that there's a lot of Afrikaner families that own land and farms.
Yeah,
in
tons.
the interiors of South Africa. Some of them are being attacked by other communities, and all the family members are being brutally killed. Like where he said that there's a culture of taking boiling oil and making a baby drink it.
I'm sure. That's what happened where I grew up.
Really?
So, yeah, that's how my family got to America. We were refugees leaving Zimbabwe. So in the early 2000s, the Robert Mugabe regime, the ZANU-PF political party, needed a scapegoat to try and regain power, to remain in power. Robert Mugabe did, because he declared himself president for life, which went against the Constitution. And so in order to maintain power, he had to funnel blame to somebody. So what did he do? He funneled blame to the white people that were living in Zimbabwe, just calling it what it was, and primarily the white farmers for taking all of the resources of the country. And so it created this whole, and I grew up with more black friends than white friends, and it created this whole racial tension. And it's, you're saying communities, but really, at least in South Africa and Zimbabwe, it was black and white, quite simply. And It was really awful because friends I'd had my whole childhood who we didn't pretend we didn't see color. Like I knew he was black and he knew I was white, but we didn't care. We were still best friends and it didn't affect how we talked to each other. We didn't. America's very different where they pretend that everybody's the same, even though you can see physical differences or whatever. This was very different the way I grew up, which was, yeah, you're black, I'm white. Like you eat sadza and I eat rice. Who cares? Like I'll come to your house and enjoy your life and you come to my house and enjoy my life and we're all friends. And that's how I grew up. And then in 2001, when I was 13 years old, all this racial stuff started that I had never experienced as a child. And I didn't understand as a child because I was 13 years old. And it was adults, not kids like me that were going through it. But it affected the kids because all of a sudden there was all this tension between black communities and white communities. And then my family we had a very small farm, but we lived on a farm in Zimbabwe and all the farms around us got taken. Not by the friends we'd had or anything like that, the ZANU-PF political party that I mentioned earlier. And there was Punguis, which is indoctrination to the political party through torture. Friends got murdered. I was in shootout. At 14 years old, I was in shootouts. I mean,
Really?
Things were crazy. Yeah, and then we fled the country.
What kind of torture was happening?
Everything. I mean, driving nails through feet and hanging people in front of their children. And I mean, all kinds of things. They're called Punguis was what it was called. It was an indoctrination to the ZANU-PF political party through the process of torture.
What's the current state of that political party and Zimbabwe in general?
The current state of that political party is, I don't even know how to explain it. It's peaceful now. It's not like it was. But what's happened was Zimbabwe went from a very wealthy place with no poverty and really very little crime. And like I explained, no racism, at least none that I experienced as a child, to being very similar to what your friend has explained, where South Africa is now, except the community of white farmers in Zimbabwe is very, very small. So they got basically shoved out very quickly. The violence has gone away, but the country is shattered because of it. Because it's incredibly poor. Their currency completely collapsed. The Zimbabwean dollar collapsed. Farming is very difficult. Everything works on cash deals. Banking systems are a disaster. Flights are a disaster. Roads are basically non-existent. Like all the infrastructure of the country collapsed due to that basically race war that took place over those years. And it displaced everybody, not just white people who, we were very privileged. I'm not going to pretend we weren't, but it not just displaced us, but now there is hunger, there is poverty, it's awful. Like for the average person, there used to be a very substantial middle class in Zimbabwe, financial middle class. Now there isn't one.
Where did they all go eventually?
Who?
Like the people who were dispersed, like you said, you were a
Everywhere. We went to America. I have lots of friends who went to South Africa, lots of friends who went to Botswana, Mozambique, Australia, New Zealand, tons to the UK. Basically, wherever your family had roots, you tried to go back to. My dad was an American, so I was lucky enough to have American passport so we could go to America.
Has it still left scars?
Probably ones that I don't realize, but at least for me, look, there were real hard, difficult things that we went through, losing everything overnight. My dog, my family, my friends, disappearing, running away from the country, guns in our faces, the whole thing. I wouldn't trade it for a single thing, not one thing, because it has made me what I think is very strong today. It's made me very successful in what I do with a career. I don't know if it's contributed or hindered, but I have a loving, beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids, strong family. And I think a lot of that is because I went through what I went through as a kid. So I wouldn't trade it.
That Africana in you came out right now.
There you go.
Man.
Yeah.
Why was your dog taken away?
It wasn't, but we had to flee to America. And so I distinctly remember driving down our driveway. We had because we lived on a farm, so we had a long, kilometer-long driveway. And my dog would always run to the gate and follow me till I went to school. And I remember crying my eyes out because my dog was like, it's your dog. And I remember watching my dog run to the gate, and I closed the gate, and I was never coming home. And that was it. I never saw my dog again. And lots of friends and everything else, it's just gone like that.
I just wish I could take a time machine and go back and say you have a brother in India. But I'm sorry I'm taking you back here, man.
No, I don't mind at all. It doesn't bother me. I'm not negatively affected by it. I know what I've been through. And like I say, I wouldn't trade it for anything because I think it's made me very strong.
You saw some messed up things as well?
Oh, yeah. Saw people get shot. We got shot at. We would see people. So the people they were indoctrinating through torture, the Punguis, were not the white farmers. They were the people that worked on the farms and the local people who loved working with the farmers and everything because they wanted to turn them against the farmers. So I remember seeing like our security guard got captured and tortured and he couldn't walk because they had broken every bone in his feet. And I remember being 12 years old and finding the guy who would work the saw, because we didn't have electric saws or anything, hanging from a tree by his neck, dead. Like we saw some very graphic things in those year or so where we were trying to hold out.
What does it do to a child's mind?
It made me very angry because even when they came to take our farm, I wanted to fight. And my mom said, get in the car, we're leaving. And we left. And then when we moved to America, we went into government housing because we had no money because the currency had collapsed. So we went into welfare housing. I wanted to fight everybody. I was angry and I wanted to fight and I wanted to fight, but I had no one to fight. You know what I mean? There was no one in Oakland, California, where we were in government housing that had anything to do with what I had been through. But I was just an angry teenager for a while.
Really?
Very angry. And you can see I'm not really like that. And then I found the ocean in California, which was the most wild part of California where I was living. And I found my peace again by reconnecting with nature.
How long did this take? Like you resettling your own head?
Honestly, I'm probably still doing that because I still play rugby and I'm nearly 40 years old, and I'm playing with 20-year-olds and they hit very hard when you're 40 years old. But I need that outlet. I don't know that I'm angry about what happened, but it took a long time. Like I got in trouble a lot. I got arrested. I wasn't doing anything bad, but I was just angry and I was picking fights and I was getting in trouble and I was breaking laws, like mostly harmless laws, like because in Africa there aren't as many laws as the US, but things like, jumping from roof to roof or sneaking beer into school when I was a kid and just like nonsense things, harmless things, having a pocket knife on me at school. I wasn't going to stab anybody. Now in America, it's like crazy, if you had a knife at school, but this was 20 years ago. I just had a knife because I like carrying a knife and things like that. So I was in trouble and I was angry and I was fighting. And then, I'd say until my 20s, I sort of held on to this and then it just sort of went away.
If you considered ayahuasca or psychedelic mushrooms or anything like that to deal with?
Not really, because I don't think I'm dealing with it. Maybe I am, but I don't feel like I am.
You're one of the nicest guys I've met in my life.
Oh, thank you.
If you don't mind us taking a tiny tangent,
no,
I just
please.
want to read out this one post I came across on Instagram.
Yeah, but I've never tried mushrooms. I've never done a ayahuasca thing. That's not true, actually. When I was in Peru, they were doing a very similar to ayahuasca thing. You pour it in the nose.
Right.
Do you know what it is?
Hape or rape.
Yes, that's right. And we were part of a blessing, and so I had like a little drop in my nose, and it burned, but it didn't do anything.
It's like wasabi in your nose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did it change anything? Did it shift? No, right?
I did it to be respectful because they were doing big amounts of it, and I basically just did a little sip and then passed it on because I was there working with bears. I didn't exactly want to lose my mind, but I was doing the blessing.
In Peru.
Spectacled bears, yeah.
Spectacle bears.
Uh-huh. You know Paddington Bear?
No.
Oh, Paddington Bear is like a popular cartoon, The Spectacles,
okay.
based on spectacled bears, the only bear in South America.
Are they small?
Smaller, yeah.
Like the Indian sloth bear?
Smaller. Smallest bear, yeah. No, sun bear is the smallest, but they're small.
Okay. So this post randomly popped up on my feed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it says, a disciplined person was once hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
A person with a loving heart was once lustful. A humble person was once prideful. A hardworking person was once lazy. A grateful person once took everything for granted. A calm person was once filled with rage. Every strength you see in someone today was born from struggle. Every quality you admire came from a battle they had to fight within themselves. Growth doesn't appear out of nowhere. It comes from facing who you were and choosing to become someone better. The parts you dislike now can become the very traits you're most proud of tomorrow. Oh my God.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. And I think to go back to our much earlier point in the conversation, that's where going in nature teaches you these things. Disconnecting teaches you these things.
Human evolution.
Do you know what makes evolution? Evolution is a derivative of change. Evolution, you only evolve when you have to evolve, whether that's a crocodile or your own mentality or your spirituality. Evolution is a derivative of necessity. It is derived by change. You can only change when you challenge yourself. If you stay in a state of comfort all the time, sedated by your phone, staring at a screen, sitting in a nice, cozy building, you have no necessity to evolve.
I think there's a Dragon Ball Z quote that goes, growth is an outcome of need, not desire.
There you go. That's true.
Oof.
Yeah.
Same thought.
Same thing. It means the same thing.
Is that what you teach your kids as well?
My kids are too little to understand that, but I teach my kids that they shouldn't stay in comfort. My son's 5 years old. I made him trek all night in Costa Rica in the jungle. He goes to bed at 7:30 at night, like every 5-year-old. When we were in Costa Rica, I made him walk from 6 o'clock in the evening until almost 4 a.m. all night. And he loved it because we were finding lizards and snakes and everything else, but I made him do it. Daddy, I'm tired. Daddy, it's hot. Daddy, I want to go to bed. No, you cannot go to bed because this is what we're doing tonight. You cannot be comfortable. You're not going to be comfortable all your life. Do you want to learn to find that snake? Do you want to learn to see the waterfall at the end of the walk? Then we're going all night. And I teach my kids that they cannot stay in a state of comfort always because life is not comfortable.
Man, dude, how did your family make the money back?
They didn't really. Yeah, we struggled for a very long time. We're on welfare. Welfare in the U.S. is government funding. We're on welfare for a long time. My mom got a job as a waitress, for a long time, or a while, not a long time. And eventually we got a little bit of money out of Zimbabwe. When I say a little bit, I mean a few $1,000s. And we were very, very poor. And worked very hard. And, I started a business in college and I sold that business. And then I started another small business and grew that business. Now I own a production company and I take care of my family. And it's been a lot of work. Yeah.
Do you still feel poor?
I've never felt poor, ever.
Really?
I grew up quite wealthy in Zimbabwe, and then we lost everything to the point of not having a present at Christmas, not having a Christmas, other things too. And I've never felt poor, ever. I've never felt, I feel rich in life experiences. And that's the only thing that matters to me. Yeah, I don't care about material things very much. Yeah.
I think that's what a tough beginning teaches you.
Yeah.
You start valuing experiences over the material.
Yeah.
But it takes a long time for people to get there.
And I think if you grow up in a consumerism society, which I did as well, and everybody does nowadays, you place value in material items. I would rather take a weekend to go on a camping trip with you than the nicest Ferrari in the world. You know what I mean? Is the Ferrari cooler? Absolutely. Does it go faster? Totally. Am I going to care about that and remember that Ferrari and have the same feelings as going camping in the Andes with you for a weekend in 20 years? Am I going to talk about that Ferrari to my kids, my grandkids? Absolutely not. Am I going to talk about the time we went to the Andes and stayed in a high mountain village? 100%. That's much more valuable to me. And I like nice things. I'm not pretending I don't. This is a nice shirt. I love the shirt with toucans. But it's not as valuable to me as the experience.
Okay. Because you've traveled to so many parts of the world, we mentioned ayahuasca and mushrooms briefly, but all of these ancient cultures have their own version of psychedelics.
Absolutely.
In the Amazon, they have frog. I don't want to call it poison, but
it's a skin poison. Yeah.
Frog poison as well, which is used as a psychedelic. With guidance from a shaman, it's a whole ceremony and all.
That's right. Yeah.
You've been offered all these things.
Some of them, yeah.
And you've chosen to not do it.
Yeah. That's true.
Why?
It's not my... Every time I've been offered something like that, like the nose drink thing that you knew the name of, and one time I sort of had to do it in the Amazon, actually, a different experience, where I had to do a cleanse, blah, blah, blah. But it's always being offered to me as sort of a rite of, like a cultural passage, and I'm there to focus on the work that I'm doing, which is conservation related. It's just not me. I don't need it. I don't feel like I need it. It might change me or all of that, but I don't feel like I need that. You know, I'm very happy with my life and the way things are going and the way that I work and my relationships. And there are things that I could work on. I snap at my team too often that I work with. And sometimes I, get grumpy too quickly. Like sometimes I'm yell at my kids too much, but I don't know if doing ayahuasca is the way to remedy that or just be self-aware and be more disciplined.
I'd love to take you to travel in India. May not be able to take you to every forest. I'm not
That's okay.
much of a forest guy. I know guys who are.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to join you.
Yeah.
But there's places in India I'd like to take you to, for self-discovery. And
I'm in love with India. I think India is such a fascinating country. And it's funny because on my first trip here, which was 5 or 6 years ago, I came just for the wildlife. And I'll be honest, like I went to New Delhi and I was like, I don't like this place at all. It was loud, it was dirty, it was crazy. People were kind of rude, to be honest. I don't want to offend anybody, but I found it very shocking. And then I went into Ranthambore and all these beautiful parks, and I was like, wow, I love India. But I never felt this connection to the people or the place, just the animals. Now I've been back 6 times in the last 2 years, and now I've made you as a friend. I've made many other friends. I'm learning. I've learned so much on this podcast alone about spirituality and culture and all the way Indians operate and think, and at least the way you operate and think. And it's opened my eyes so much. My point, sorry, I'm rambling, is I would love that because for the first time, I've always been interested in culture, like tribal culture and Amazon culture and things like that. But I don't see India like that. I see it as a modern culture, an ancient but modern culture. But I'd say maybe for the first time in my life, I'm interested in a modern culture. I'm not interested in going to Paris and seeing the paintings or going to the Louvre or going to Italy and eating pasta. That doesn't interest me. But Indian culture, I've become so interested in.
Yeah. We were speaking about your timeline of your life.
Mm-hmm.
If you take a country's timeline, technically we just got independence now, 1947.
Right.
And what's told to Indian kids while we're growing up is that we've seen a very rough last 1,000 years or so.
Because of all the people that have taken control of India and invaded India. Yeah.
So as a culture, we've just got out of our suffering.
That's
which is why there's so much talk about self-awareness, spiritual thought, philosophy. Because we're coming to terms with everything that happened on a cultural level. But the good side is that it's led to these cultural hotspots in the country, which weirdly a lot of Indians don't even understand completely or are not willing to go because it's not aspirational to go there.
Yeah.
But places like Banaras, places even far northeast Arunachal, we have a place called Dharamshala, which is the central point of both Hindu and Himalayan Buddhist culture.
Oh, interesting.
So there's so many hotspots.
Yeah.
And you go there for the human conversations. Just
Right.
spend time with people,
Right.
see how different human beings, different apes are thinking differently and living the ape life differently.
That's right.
Very culturally enriching.
That's what's so fascinating about us as a species, human beings as a species. There is no other species on Earth that has so much variety in hair color, skin color, language, speech patterns, tonality, lifestyle, fashion. I mean, everything. We're so different, and yet we're all the same. You and I are the same. We're the same as a person in the Amazon jungle, in a tribe in Africa, in the jungles of Papua New Guinea, in the outback of Australia, and yet we couldn't be more different.
Let's turn this podcast completely.
Okay?
I'm going to ask you to repeat a story that you've once told me
Sure.
about your encounter with a witch doctor.
Sure.
That's crazy, man.
I've never told this story ever before.
Yeah. Whenever you're ready,
Sure. No, I'll tell you right now. It's not. I think you're the only person I ever told to. So when I was a kid, as I explained, my mom was a bush pilot. So we used to fly all over remote parts of Africa. That's from the plane crash, in that very plane that we had the crash in. And my aunt was an art collector. So we'd fly into these remote tribes and we'd take a bag of sweets and a bag of flour and we'd trade them for beaded necklaces and shields and all these things. And my aunt would take them to America and sell them. And my mom would fly and my sister and I were little kids and we'd come along. And this is why I'm telling you this for context. I remember, I want to say it was the Samburu, but we flew up north somewhere. I'm fuzzy on the details, but I was young. And this is why I'm not even sure if this was real. But what I remember, and I've asked my mom about this, and she's like, I remember something similar, but it's very strange. And anyway, what I remember is we flew up to this tribe, and I think it was the Samburu, but I could be completely wrong. They had never seen white people before. So they came out and they were touching, my mom has long blonde hair. They were touching her hair because she has beautiful blonde hair. And they were like touching my skin. And, you know, within a few hours, we were playing with the kids and things. We had a translator with us and he was translating to them like, would you like to trade anything? You know, we have sugar and we have sweets and we have this and we have that. And, you know, different time. Now, no, but that wouldn't fly anymore. And I remember distinctly there was a conversation going on and I was watching this whole thing happen. I was watching my mom and my aunt and they were talking to these elders and they're trying to trade and my sister was playing with the other kids. And I remember watching this old man walk into a hut, you know, like traditional African mud hut, you know, round thatch roof. This old man walked into a hut and I distinctly remember 5 minutes later, a lion walked out of the hut and disappeared into the bush. And I remember this, but I don't know if it was real. I don't know if it was a dream. And that memory stuck with me my whole life. And that's why when you asked me, have you ever seen anything weird? I triggered this memory of this lion walking out of the hut. And I remember asking what just happened. Like, and I asked our translator to ask them, and my mom was like, what's he talking about? And the translator was like, oh, that was the witch doctor. He's a shapeshifter. And again, I don't know if it was my imagination. I don't know if it was real. I don't know if it was a dream. I really don't even know. But that is, in my life, the strangest human thing I've ever seen is a man walk into a hut and a lion run out of it. And I don't know if it was real or not, like to this day, because I was little and your imagination runs wild when you're a kid.
Would you like to go there again?
I would love to. And I have no way of knowing where that was. I mean, I could ask my mom, could you look back and, this was the days of like film cameras and things. I don't even know if she has any pictures. You know what I mean? This is like forever ago.
It was in Zimbabwe.
No, it wasn't. We flew somewhere else. I don't remember, like, Tanzania or Namibia or somewhere, because we flew all over Africa all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, because when you said bush pilot, I assumed it's just around Zimbabwe.
No, because we'd fly all over Southern Africa. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that like, man?
It was great. I mean, again, this is a different time. I don't want people to get the wrong impression. I remember I'm going to go back to animals because that's my thing. But I remember being a kid, just like my son, and I was telling you about the snails in the garden or whatever. And I was getting into fish tanks. I was telling my mom, I love fish. I love fish so much. I had 14 fish tanks in my bedroom at the time. Just anytime I could save up pocket money, I used to breed guinea pigs and sell them. And if I sold a guinea pig, I'd buy a fish tank. So I had 14 fish tanks in my bedroom as a kid. And I was telling Mom, I love fish. I love fish so much. I love fish. I love fish. And so one day she goes, pulled me out of school a bit early. She goes, I got a present for you. I said, what's the present? So we're going to fly to Lake Malawi and catch cichlids. Cichlids are these colorful freshwater fish. And so we jumped in the plane. We flew for 5 or 6 or whatever hours and landed in Malawi and went with little nets and snorkels and caught fish, put them in buckets, put them in the plane, and flew back to my house. Now you never do that. You know what I mean? I mean, people still do it in the pet trade and stuff, and it's legal in various ways. But this is old Africa. You just fly in, catch your fish, fly back. There's no clearances, nothing. And it was just like that kind of experience was the best childhood you could ever imagine.
I'm thinking about that old witch doctor again.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Sorry.
Do you remember what he looked like?
Just an old witch doctor with some beads and some skins on his chest, and then like white hair. He went in the hut, and that's all I remember.
Did you see a lot of witch doctors growing up? You did.
We had one on our farm.
What is a witch doctor?
A witch doctor is a medicine man that practices traditional medicine. I'm sure you have something similar here in India, like a healer.
Something like that. Yeah.
I think the term witch doctor is probably seen as like this voodoo, dark, evil thing. Where and when I grew up, in Shona culture, which is the tribe that lived where we lived in Zimbabwe and all my friends were, a witch doctor is just a healer. They don't put curses on people. They don't make hexes. They don't hurt you. They're a healer. But they use, some of them are considered magical, some are not, blah, blah, blah. But they use traditional things. They ground up roots and they use animal bones and, they sing songs and dance and chant and things like that. Feathers, all kinds of things.
I'll give you the Indian context. There is a subculture of something called Tantra in Sanatan Dharma, and that's becoming more and more mainstream with time. Mm-hmm. I'm a 90s kid. When we were growing up, the word tantric had a negative connotation. Even today, if you go and tell an average Indian person, hey, I know a tantric or I am a tantric, they'd probably have kind of a negative reaction.
Because why?
In the same way that the word voodoo generally has a negative
I see.
connotation.
Yeah.
Same.
I see.
But when you actually break down the etymology, you understand the word. Tantra loosely translates to technique.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So effectively, when we pray in Hinduism, we have a set of chants and we follow a set of steps. And every Hindu household has the same process. It's called a puja. A tantra-based puja would just have slightly sharper chants, like chants which are more memorable, for lack of a better way to explain it, and slightly more elaborate process. So I've tried understanding voodoo from some of my friends from Ghana, and we've had someone on the show who had explored voodoo a bit. It's loosely based on the same concepts as Tantra.
I see.
So if I ever actually meet a voodoo practitioner, I might have a breakdown of
What it is.
like what are the parallels between your faith and mine. And when I was in Australia a couple of years ago, I'm going again in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
But I had the same parallel breakdown.
Interesting.
But it's not beyond my realm of belief in this whole story about the guy turning into a lion.
Shapeshifter, yeah.
I'm from India, bro. I've seen some weird shit.
Well, that's the thing is, I've never told that story before publicly. I don't even think I've ever told anybody except you before. And it's because, now I don't really care what people think of me, but I come from a scientific background. I'm a biologist. And you start telling people that, and I like I've said, I don't know if it was real or not. I don't know if I was a kid imagining it. I don't know any of that. But you try telling that to scientists in the United States. They'll laugh at you and say you're a Bigfoot believer or something. And in my mind, I saw this crazy thing. I remember another thing I saw when I was a kid where I could have sworn I saw this woman fly in front of our balcony.
Really?
And I lived on a farm that had witch doctors and things, and they talked about shape-shifting, and they talked about women who could fly and all these various things. And maybe I was impacted by where I live. Maybe I was impacted by stories. We used to get crazy late-night stories when I'd stay at my friend's house that were Shauna, and they'd tell us old Shauna fables and things like that. So maybe I imagined it. Maybe it was a dream. I don't know. But I've seen these things that are vividly with me that I don't know if I was awake or asleep or it was a dream or it was real, and yet they've stuck with me my whole life.
Did you have interactions with witch doctors?
Oh yeah, many.
And what was that
recently? I had one 2 years ago.
like? And what was that like?
There's that cave I think it's in the north of India where the guys meditate their whole lives. It's probably similar if I asked you, like, what was it like when you interacted with that guy who sits there in perfect silence? He's just a person. It's very interesting. It's very different to what you do. Same with witch doctors. I grew up with witch doctors, not like as friends or anything, but they lived in the village down the road from me. I could go by their huts. I could see them practicing. It wasn't anything to me. It was just part of life. They're doctors.
Was there wisdom they imparted?
Yes, but it wasn't my culture. So I didn't visit the witch doctor. Do you know what I mean? Like I came from an English background. So if we got sick, we went to the hospital.
So people went to them for healing.
Yeah, that's all they are, is a healer. That's all a witch doctor in Shauna culture is. Some of them are bad and can create hexes and things like that, but the witch doctor that lived on our farm that would see people that worked on the farm and stuff was just a healer. But it's a healer who shakes bones and throws feathers and does smoke, and it's just a different thing. Yeah.
You kind of break into an Afrikaner accent sometimes.
It's like a few words, like the A's. Like I can't say can't like Americans do. Like the soft A's.
So
Yeah.
Can't,
yeah.
Okay. But how did you pick up the American accent? Just by staying there?
Oh, I wanted to be American so badly. I moved there when I was 14 from everything I told you about. And I was everybody make fun of me and I didn't fit in.
Really?
And, yeah, because I had a funny accent and, I wore short, cocky shorts because I've been in the bush my whole life, son of safari guide, bush pilot. And, I just wanted to blend in. So I tried to sound like everybody else. And now I regret it because I do sound like everybody else. But as a kid, I wanted to disappear, into the masses. Yeah.
When I saw you on Joe Rogan, my first thought was, that's one of the coolest Americans I've come across.
It's because I'm not American.
And then you mentioned Zimbabwe. And the next thing I know, I'm talking to you about Andy Flower.
Yeah, I know. Pretty wild.
Wild to me, man.
Yep.
Dude, it's been fascinating getting to know your life. I hope it was kind of a new experience for you.
I've shared things I've never shared before, like the witch doctor thing I told you about, and I've talked about my childhood a little bit, but not a lot publicly. So, I'm an open book. I'll talk about anything. But yeah, it's fun to share it. It's a good conversation.
I often get asked as a podcast host about my favorite guests.
Okay.
I have a new favorite guest.
No, come on.
And I'm not,
come
I'm not
on.
just, I'm not,
come
I'm
on.
not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'll tell you why. I usually say it's my favorite cricketer, Yuvraj Singh, who I had on the show. But the guy who shifted me the most was this Indian military veteran. He's a Special Forces veteran. His name is Major Sushant, who retired from his military service and sold off everything he had and now is cycling all over the world.
Oh, that's awesome.
So just very, very fascinating conversations. But I have never spoken to anyone with the width of experiences that you have.
Oh, well, thank you.
That is wild, man. Like, and to just thank you. Like, and I'm genuinely saying this, that this was one of the most fascinating conversations I've had in my whole career.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, man. I mean, we connected on that first trip. We've stayed in touch ever since. I mean, it's great chatting with you. I'll chat with you anytime.
Yeah, thank you, bro. And just it's
Thanks, buddy.
like it's been great meeting you in life. Thank you, man. And just wish you and your family more love and peace.
Thank you, brother. Same to you. Thank you for having me.